deep beneath the sands of modern-day Iran, lies evidence of one of humanity's most revolutionary moments, the birth of urban civilization itself. While most people know about ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, few realize that another groundbreaking society was simultaneously creating the foundations of complex human organization over 5,000 years ago. The Elamite civilization emerged during the late 4th millennium BC, developing alongside the famous Sumerian city-states, but following a completely different path that would reshape our understanding of early human achievement. Archaeological teams working at Susa, the crown jewel of early Elamite culture, have uncovered a sophisticated society that developed one of Earth's first writing systems. These discoveries reveal enduring patterns of political structure and economic networks that dominated the region for thousands of years. The evidence paints a remarkable portrait of innovation, organization, and cultural complexity that rivals any ancient civilization. The Proto-Elamite script appeared around 3200 BC during an explosive period of urban growth and administrative sophistication. Unlike the cuneiform systems simultaneously developing in nearby Mesopotamia, Proto-Elamite writing utilized a completely unique set of symbols that continue to baffle researchers despite decades of intensive study. This mysterious script appears on roughly 1,600 clay tablets discovered mainly at Susa, with additional collections found at Melian, Yahya Tepe, and Shari Sokta. These tablets predominantly document administrative transactions, suggesting that writing evolved primarily as a management tool for increasingly complex economic activities rather than for literature or religious ceremonies. The Proto-Elamite tablets showcase a brilliant numerical system employing different counting methods for various goods and services. Researchers have identified distinct numerical notations for counting individual objects, measuring grain quantities, recording land measurements, and tracking work hours. This mathematical complexity demonstrates a highly organized administrative structure capable of managing diverse economic activities across multiple settlements. The tablets frequently display cylinder seals featuring elaborate designs of animals, geometric patterns, and human figures, showcasing advanced artistic traditions alongside administrative breakthroughs. Susa's archaeological layers from this era reveal intensive construction projects with large public buildings erected using standardized brick dimensions and sophisticated architectural methods. The most impressive structure from the Proto-Elamite period stands as a massive terrace measuring approximately 80 by 60 meters. Built entirely from mud brick and rising nearly 10 meters above the surrounding landscape, this monumental architecture demanded coordinated labor, involving hundreds of workers and substantial resource allocation. Such projects indicate centralized political authority capable of mobilizing community resources for large-scale construction endeavors. The geographical foundations of Elamite civilization provided exceptional advantages for early urban development. The Khuzestan Plain, stretching between the Zagros Mountains and Mesopotamian lowlands, offered fertile alluvial soils deposited by seasonal flooding from rivers cascading down mountain slopes. The Karon and Dizi rivers created waterway networks that facilitated irrigation, agriculture, and transportation, while the transition zone between plains and mountains provided access to diverse ecological environments and natural resources. The strategic location of Elamite territory between Mesopotamian floodplains and the Iranian plateau created unique opportunities for controlling intercontinental trade routes. Merchants traveling between resource-rich highlands and agricultural lowlands necessarily passed through Elamite-controlled territory, generating customs revenues and facilitating cultural exchange. Mountain passes provided access to copper, tin, precious stones, and other valuable materials sought by Mesopotamian cities, while fertile plains produced agricultural surpluses, supporting specialized craftsmen and administrative personnel. Susa's position at the intersection of multiple river valleys made it a natural convergence point for regional trade networks. The site controlled access to the Deiluran Plain to the northwest, the Ram Hormuz Valley to the southeast, and mountain passes leading toward the central Iranian plateau. This geographical centrality, combined with abundant water resources and fertile soils, explains Susa's emergence as the preeminent urban center in early Elamite territory. Archaeological surveys have identified numerous smaller settlements contemporary with Proto-Elamite Susa, revealing a hierarchical settlement pattern with Susa at its apex. Sites like Choga Mish, located 25 kilometers east of Susa, show evidence of substantial occupation during the late 4th millennium BC, including large public buildings and evidence of craft specialization. The site produced numerous Proto-Elamite tablets and seals, indicating its integration into the broader administrative system centered at Susa. Irrigation system development played a crucial role in supporting early Elamite urbanization. Archaeological evidence from the Delorean Plain reveals extensive canal networks dating to the late 4th millennium BC, designed to capture and distribute seasonal floodwaters across agricultural fields. These irrigation systems required sophisticated engineering knowledge and coordinated maintenance efforts, contributing to centralized administrative institutions capable of managing collective labor projects. Canal construction followed careful topographic analysis, with channels designed to maintain optimal gradients for water flow while minimizing erosion and siltation. Archaeological mapping has revealed canal systems extending over 50 kilometers from their source points, serving agricultural areas supporting thousands of inhabitants. Maintaining these systems required annual cleaning, breach point repairs, and coordination of water distribution among multiple communities. This fostered legal frameworks and administrative procedures that would characterize later Elamite political organization. Environmental factors significantly influenced the timing and character of early Elamite development. Paleoclimatic evidence suggests that the late 4th millennium BC experienced relatively favorable precipitation patterns, supporting expanded agricultural production and population growth. Seasonal flooding from rivers descending the Zagros Mountains provided predictable water supplies for irrigation agriculture, while mountain foothills offered pasturage for livestock and access to wild plant and animal resources. Natural resource exploitation beyond agriculture contributed substantially to early Elamite economic development. Copper deposits in Zagros foothills provided raw materials for tool and weapon production, while bitumen seeps near Susa supplied waterproofing materials essential for irrigation canal construction and ceramic production. Salt deposits supported food preservation and provided valuable trade commodities, while gypsum and limestone quarries supplied construction materials for monumental architecture. Trade relationships with neighboring regions became increasingly important during the Proto-Elamite period. Archaeological evidence reveals extensive exchange networks connecting Elamite settlements with communities across the Iranian Plateau, Central Asia, and the Indus Valley. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, carnelian beads from Gujarat, and silver from Anatolia appear in Proto-Elamite archaeological contexts, demonstrating participation in long-distance trade networks spanning thousands of kilometers. Craft production organization during the Proto-Elamite period reveals increasing specialization and standardization. Pottery workshops at Susa produced distinctive ceramic styles characterized by geometric painted designs and standardized vessel forms. Metalworking evidence includes sophisticated bronze alloys and complex casting techniques, while textile production employed advanced weaving technologies and distinctive decorative patterns. This craft specialization required full-time artisans supported by agricultural surpluses, indicating substantial economic productivity and social stratification. Settlement patterns beyond Susa reveal the emergence of a multi-tiered urban hierarchy during the Proto-Elamite period, with major centers controlling regional territories encompassing dozens of smaller villages and pastoral camps. These regional centers maintained administrative connections with Susa, while cultivating distinctive local customs and economic specializations. The widespread distribution of Proto-Elamite tablets across multiple locations demonstrates a unified administrative network extending across several hundred kilometers of territory, revealing sophisticated governance capabilities that coordinated distant communities under centralized authority. The relationship between Elamite settlements and pastoral nomadic groups inhabiting the Zagros Mountains added layers of complexity to early Elamite society. Archaeological discoveries suggest consistent interaction between settled agricultural communities and mobile pastoral populations, involving the exchange of livestock products for manufactured goods and agricultural surpluses. These partnerships provided Elamite settlements with access to highland resources while offering pastoral communities manufactured items and agricultural products unavailable in mountainous environments. This symbiotic relationship created networks of interdependence that strengthened both communities while establishing trade connections that would prove crucial during periods of external threat. The nomadic groups possessed intimate knowledge of mountain terrain and could serve as scouts, guides, or auxiliary forces during military campaigns, while settled communities provided secure storage facilities and processing centers for pastoral products. The transformation from the Proto-Elamite period to the Old Elamite era marked a fundamental shift in southwestern Iran's political landscape, as decentralized administrative centers evolved into dynastic kingdoms capable of projecting military strength across vast territories. The Awan dynasty, emerging around 2700 BC, represented the first historically documented Elamite royal house, establishing patterns of kingship and territorial control that would define Elamite political organization for over a millennium. Archaeological evidence from Susa reveals dramatic transformations in material culture during this transitional period, including the construction of massive royal palaces, the development of distinctive burial practices for elite individuals, and the adoption of new artistic styles reflecting growing contact with Mesopotamian civilizations. These changes indicate not merely political evolution but cultural transformation as Elamite society became increasingly stratified and ceremonially complex. The Awan kings ruled from Susa during an era of intense competition for control over trade routes connecting the Iranian plateau with Mesopotamian markets. Cuneiform sources from Mesopotamian archives provide the earliest written references to specific Elamite rulers, though chronology remains problematic due to gaps in historical records and conflicting accounts in different source traditions. The Sumerian king list mentions 12 Awan rulers, while Mesopotamian royal inscriptions reference several Elamite kings by name, including Enshaku-Shana, who claimed dominion over territories extending from the Persian Gulf to the Zagros Mountains. The military capabilities of the Awan dynasty became apparent through their conflicts with expanding Mesopotamian powers, particularly the Akkadian Empire, established by Sargon of Akkad, around 2334 BC. Sargon's conquest inscriptions describe extensive campaigns against Elamite territories, including the capture of Susa and the deportation of Elamite craftsmen to Akkadian cities. However, these victories proved temporary as Elamite forces repeatedly regained control of their homeland and launched counterattacks against Akkadian positions in eastern Mesopotamia. The persistence of Elamite resistance demonstrates sophisticated military organization and the ability to mobilize substantial human and material resources for prolonged warfare. Archaeological excavations at Susa have uncovered evidence of destruction layers dating to the Akkadian period, including burned buildings and scattered weapons, supporting textual accounts of military campaigns. However, the rapid reconstruction of damaged areas and the continued production of distinctively Elamite artifacts indicate that Akkadian control remains superficial and short-lived. The Elamites developed defensive strategies that exploited their knowledge of local terrain, using mountain passes and river crossings to harass Akkadian supply lines, while avoiding direct confrontation with superior Akkadian forces in open terrain. This guerrilla warfare approach proved highly effective against armies designed for conventional battlefield encounters, forcing Akkadian commanders to divide their forces and extend vulnerable supply lines across hostile territory. The political structure of the Awan dynasty reflected the geographic complexity of Elamite territory, with the king of Susa exercising varying degrees of control over regional governors who administered distant provinces. Inscriptions from this period reference multiple titles for Elamite rulers, including King of Awan and Susa, indicating the dual nature of Elamite political authority. Anshan, located in Fars province, controlled access to highland resources and trade routes leading to Central Asia, while Susa dominated the lowland plains and connections with Mesopotamia. This geographic division required sophisticated administrative coordination and diplomatic negotiation between different regional power centers. The successful management of such territorial complexity demonstrates advanced governmental capabilities and the development of bureaucratic institutions capable of maintaining unity across diverse landscapes and populations. The establishment of Elamite political identity during the Awan period involved conscious differentiation from Mesopotamian cultural models, while simultaneously adopting useful administrative and military innovations. Elamite rulers commissioned inscriptions in their own language using cuneiform script adapted from Mesopotamian writing systems, creating official documents that asserted independent political authority while demonstrating cultural sophistication. These inscriptions employed distinctive formulaic language and religious references that distinguished Elamite royal ideology from Mesopotamian kingship traditions. The development of indigenous writing conventions allowed Elamite rulers to communicate with their subjects in familiar cultural terms while participating in the broader literate culture of the ancient Near East. Military technology during the Awan period reflected both indigenous innovations and selective adoption of foreign weapon systems. Archaeological evidence reveals sophisticated bronze-working techniques producing axes, spears, and daggers with distinctive Elamite decorative motifs. Elamite archers employed composite bows constructed from wood, horn, and sinew, providing superior range and penetrating power compared to simple wooden bows used by many contemporary armies. The mountainous terrain of much Elamite territory favored mobile infantry tactics over the heavy infantry formations preferred by Mesopotamian armies, leading to the development of specialized mountain warfare techniques. These tactical innovations gave Elamite forces significant advantages when fighting on familiar terrain, while creating challenges for foreign armies unaccustomed to mountain combat conditions. The rise of the Shimashki dynasty around 2100 BC coincided with the collapse of Akkadian power and represented a period of unprecedented Elamite territorial expansion. The Shimashki kings, ruling from a capital whose precise location remains archaeologically unidentified, extended Elamite control across territories stretching from the Persian Gulf to the central Iranian plateau. This expansion required the development of new administrative mechanisms capable of governing diverse populations speaking different languages and practicing varying cultural traditions. Shimashki military campaigns targeted both Mesopotamian cities and highland territories previously outside Elamite control. King Kindatu launched attacks against Urbur during the reign of Ur-Nammu, while his successors continued pressure against the third dynasty of Ur throughout its existence. These campaigns involved complex logistical planning as Elamite armies had to transport supplies across hundreds of kilometers of difficult terrain while maintaining communication with their homeland bases. The success of these operations demonstrates sophisticated military organization and the ability to coordinate multiple army groups operating in different theaters simultaneously. The scale of these campaigns suggests substantial population resources and economic productivity capable of supporting extended military operations far from home territories. The territorial expansion under the Shimashki dynasty created new challenges for Elamite administration, as conquered territories included populations with established political traditions and economic systems. Rather than imposing uniform administrative structures, Shimashki rulers adopted flexible governance strategies that preserved local institutions while ensuring ultimate Elamite authority. This approach required the development of diplomatic protocols for managing relationships with subordinate rulers and the creation of tribute systems that extracted resources without disrupting local production. Archaeological surveys in regions controlled by the Shimashki dynasty reveal evidence of substantial construction projects, including fortified administrative centers, road networks, and irrigation systems. These infrastructure investments demonstrate long-term planning and substantial resource allocation, indicating that Shimashki expansion aimed at permanent territorial control rather than temporary raiding. The construction of fortified positions at strategic mountain passes suggests systematic efforts to control trade routes and prevent enemy infiltration into Elamite heartland territories. The consolidation of Shimashki power across southwestern Iran involved the integration of diverse economic systems and the standardization of weights, measures, and currency systems, creating unified commercial networks that facilitated trade and administrative efficiency across their expanded territories. Archaeological discoveries reveal the expansion of distinctive Elamite ceramic styles and metalworking techniques across territories under Shimashki control, demonstrating active campaigns to promote cultural unification throughout their realm. However, regional variations persisted in many areas, suggesting that Shimashki administration carefully balanced central authority with local autonomy to maintain stability across their extensive domains. This delicate balance between unity and diversity became a hallmark of Elamite governance, allowing conquered populations to retain familiar cultural practices while gradually adopting Elamite administrative standards and artistic conventions. The success of this approach is evident in the archaeological record, which shows both standardization in official contexts and continued regional creativity in everyday material culture. Cultural and religious developments during the Old Elamite period reflected both indigenous traditions and influences from expanding contact with neighboring civilizations. The worship of Inshushinak, the patron deity of Susa, became increasingly prominent in official inscriptions and monumental art, serving as a powerful symbol of Elamite political independence and cultural distinctiveness from Mesopotamian influences. Inshushinak's role as protector of Susa and judge of oaths made him particularly crucial for royal legitimacy, as Elamite kings claimed divine sanction for their authority through association with this mighty deity. Royal inscriptions frequently invoke Inshushinak's blessing and protection, establishing a direct connection between divine approval and political authority that legitimized dynastic rule and military campaigns. The iconography associated with Inshushinak reveals sophisticated theological concepts and artistic traditions that communicated complex religious and political messages. Cylinder seals from the Old Elamite period depict the deity as a bearded figure wearing a horned crown, often accompanied by serpents and other symbols of divine power. These artistic representations demonstrate advanced carving techniques and complex symbolic systems that effectively communicated religious and political concepts to both literate elites and ordinary citizens. The widespread distribution of Inshushinak imagery across Elamite territories indicates systematic efforts to promote religious unity as a foundation for political cohesion. Temples, official buildings, and royal monuments throughout the realm featured consistent depictions of the deity, creating visual connections between local communities and the central government in Susa. Temple construction during the Old Elamite period involved massive resource investments and sophisticated architectural planning that rivaled contemporary Mesopotamian religious architecture. The Inshushinak temple at Susa, rebuilt multiple times during this era, featured elaborate decoration including glazed brick facades, carved stone reliefs and precious metal fittings that demonstrated both religious devotion and royal wealth. Archaeological excavations have revealed foundation deposits containing valuable objects dedicated to the deity, including gold and silver vessels, carved ivory plaques, and imported gemstones from distant lands. These deposits demonstrate the substantial wealth controlled by Elamite temples and their central role in economic and political life, functioning as treasuries, administrative centers, and symbols of divine favor. Religious festivals and ceremonies provided spectacular opportunities for displaying royal power and reinforcing social hierarchies throughout Elamite society. Textual sources describe elaborate processions involving the king, court officials, and religious personnel, accompanied by music, dancing, and ritual offerings that created memorable experiences for participants and spectators alike. These ceremonies required extensive preparation and coordination involving craftsmen who produced ceremonial objects, farmers who supplied ritual foods, and administrators who organized complex logistics. The scale and complexity of these events demonstrate the remarkable organizational capabilities of Elamite institutions and their ability to mobilize community resources for religious and political purposes across vast territories. The development of distinctive Elamite artistic traditions during the Old Elamite period involved both innovation and selective borrowing from neighboring cultures, creating a unique aesthetic identity that distinguished Elamite works from contemporary productions. Elamite sculptors developed characteristic styles for representing human figures, animals, and geometric patterns that clearly distinguished their work from contemporary Mesopotamian and Iranian artistic traditions. These stylistic innovations appeared across multiple media, including stone carving, metalwork, ceramic decoration, and textile production, indicating systematic artistic training and the existence of specialized workshops serving royal and religious patrons. The consistency of these styles across different materials and locations suggests organized artistic education and quality control mechanisms that maintain standards throughout the realm. Metalwork achieved particular sophistication during the Old Elamite period, with Elamite craftsmen producing bronze objects of exceptional quality and artistic merit that rivaled contemporary works from any civilization. Archaeological excavations have uncovered elaborate bronze vessels decorated with animal figures, geometric patterns and religious symbols executed with remarkable technical skill and artistic sensitivity. The production of these objects required advanced knowledge of alloy composition, casting techniques and finishing processes, indicating the existence of specialized workshops with access to high-quality raw materials and highly skilled artisans. These workshops likely operated under royal or temple patronage, producing both ceremonial objects and practical items for elite consumption. Economic systems during the Old Elamite period successfully combined agricultural production, craft specialization, and long-distance trade to create substantial wealth that supported royal courts, religious institutions, and military forces. The fertile plains of Khuzestan continued providing the agricultural foundation for Elamite society, with irrigation systems expanded and improved to support growing urban populations and increased agricultural productivity. Archaeological evidence reveals sophisticated water management techniques, including the construction of underground channels that transported water from mountain sources to agricultural areas in the plains. These engineering projects required extensive planning, skilled labor, and ongoing maintenance, demonstrating the administrative capabilities necessary for managing complex infrastructure across diverse geographical conditions. Trade networks connecting Elam with distant regions expanded significantly during the Old Elamite period, reflecting both increased demand for foreign goods and improved transportation infrastructure. Elamite merchants established trading posts across the Iranian plateau and maintained regular contact with communities in Central Asia, the Indus Valley, and Anatolia, creating commercial relationships that generated substantial revenues. These commercial relationships involved the exchange of manufactured goods, raw materials, and luxury items, generating customs revenues and tribute payments that enriched Elamite royal treasuries. The diversity of traded goods and the distances involved indicate sophisticated commercial organization and the ability to coordinate complex logistics across challenging terrain. The organization of long-distance trade required sophisticated commercial institutions, including standardized weights and measures, legal frameworks for contract enforcement, and diplomatic protocols for negotiating trading rights with foreign governments. Archaeological evidence reveals the use of distinctive Elamite seals for authenticating commercial documents and the development of accounting systems for tracking complex transactions involving multiple parties and various commodities. These commercial innovations demonstrate advanced understanding of market mechanisms and the ability to coordinate economic activities across vast distances while maintaining quality control and preventing fraud. The success of these systems is evident in the archaeological record, which shows consistent standards and widespread distribution of Elamite commercial products. The collapse of the Shimashki dynasty around 1970 BC precipitated a fundamental reorganization of Elamite political structures, giving rise to the innovative Sukulma system that would govern Elam for nearly 5 centuries. This revolutionary administrative framework represented a radical departure from traditional monarchical rule, establishing a triumvirate leadership structure that distributed power among 3 principal offices: the Sukulma, the Sukul of Elam and Shimashki, and the Sukul of Susa. Archaeological evidence from Susa and other major centers reveals extensive construction projects and cultural developments during this period, indicating unprecedented prosperity and political stability under Sukulma administration. The system's longevity and apparent success suggest that it effectively addressed the challenges of governing diverse populations across challenging geographical conditions. The Sukulma held supreme executive authority within this triumvirate system, functioning as the ultimate decision-maker for military campaigns, diplomatic negotiations, and major administrative policies. Unlike previous Elamite rulers who claimed divine kingship, the Sukulma derived legitimacy from institutional position rather than hereditary right or religious sanction, representing a significant evolution in political theory. This office typically rotated among members of prominent Elamite families, though specific succession mechanisms remain unclear from available textual sources. The Sukulma maintained residences at various locations depending on political circumstances, with documented stays at Susa, Anshan, and other major centers throughout Elamite territory, ensuring direct oversight of regional administration. The Sukkul of Elam and Shimashki administered the highland territories that provided access to mineral resources, pastoral products, and trade routes connecting the Iranian plateau with Central Asian markets. This position required extensive knowledge of mountain geography, tribal relationships, and seasonal migration patterns that affected both security and economic activities in highland regions, making it one of the most challenging administrative positions in the Elamite system. Archaeological surveys have revealed countless administrative hubs throughout mountainous regions during the Sukulma era, featuring heavily fortified complexes that functioned as regional command centers for revenue collection, armed forces recruitment, and legal proceedings. These mountain strongholds represented a sophisticated network of governmental control that extended Elamite authority into previously ungovernable terrain. The Sukkul of Susa commanded the lowland zones that produced agricultural abundance, supporting Elamite metropolitan populations while maintaining crucial access to Mesopotamian commercial networks. This position involved managing intricate water distribution systems that channeled Zagros mountain streams across farming territories, orchestrating seasonal workforce demands for cultivation and harvest cycles, and negotiating relationships with nomadic herders who moved livestock through farming districts during designated periods. Additionally, the Sukkul of Susa oversaw manufacturing workshops that created products for both local markets and international trade destinations. This revolutionary three-way leadership structure established inherent safeguards preventing individual power concentration, while guaranteeing cooperation between distinct geographical zones with separate economic priorities and defense requirements. Critical governmental choices demanded consultation between all three administrators, with established procedures for settling disagreements through assembly meetings, including delegates from numerous administrative provinces. Archaeological discoveries indicate this framework proved extraordinarily durable, as building ventures and bureaucratic documentation display steady patterns across lengthy timeframes, without the chaos characteristic of royal succession periods. The allocation of governmental duties between the three Sukkul positions demonstrated profound comprehension of Elamite regional geography and economic frameworks. Mountain territories demanded different oversight methods than lowland farming zones, while Susa's exceptional status as both administrative hub and trade center required specialized focus on metropolitan governance challenges. This geographical specialization enabled each Sukkul to cultivate mastery within their assigned domains, while preserving comprehensive policy coordination through consistent consultation and collective decision-making mechanisms. The system's genius lay in recognizing that effective governance required intimate knowledge of local conditions while maintaining unified strategic direction. Territorial growth under the Sukulma framework advanced through methodical campaigns extending Elamite dominance across regions spanning from the Persian Gulf to the central Iranian highlands. Archaeological discoveries from locations like Haftepe and Kabnak demonstrate significant construction endeavors during the early Sukulma era, featuring administrative headquarters, housing districts, and fortification installations, supporting expanded territorial authority. These building programs demanded coordinated planning and resource distribution between the three Sukkul offices, proving effective institutional collaboration pursuing mutual strategic goals. The success of these expansions demonstrates the system's ability to mobilize resources across vast distances while maintaining political unity. Sukulama administration forged diplomatic connections with major contemporary powers through meticulously negotiated agreements, balancing Elamite concerns against neighboring kingdoms' territorial aspirations. Relationships with Babylon proved especially intricate, as both civilizations competed for profitable trade corridor control while preventing expensive military conflicts disrupting commercial ventures. Diplomatic correspondence preserved within Babylonian archives demonstrates sophisticated negotiation tactics utilized by Elamite delegates, incorporating marriage partnerships, tribute arrangements, and territorial compromises, maintaining peaceful coexistence. These documents reveal remarkable diplomatic sophistication and strategic thinking that prioritized long-term stability over short-term gains. Marriage diplomacy evolved into an essential instrument for Elamite international policy during the Sukulma period, with aristocratic women from distinguished Elamite households wedded to allied kingdom rulers, cementing political compacts and establishing communication channels between royal courts. These unions created kinship webs facilitating diplomatic correspondence while providing dispute resolution mechanisms through family mediation rather than armed confrontation. Archaeological discoveries from royal burial locations expose elaborate funeral offerings associated with foreign royal spouses, demonstrating their elevated position within Elamite court hierarchy and their crucial function in international affairs. These burials often contained luxury items from multiple cultures, reflecting the cosmopolitan nature of Elamite diplomatic marriages. Treaty negotiations with Maria, a significant commercial hub along the Euphrates River, created protocols regulating trade operations and resolving commercial conflicts between Elamite and Mesopotamian traders. These compacts outlined procedures handling currency conversion, quality benchmarks for exchanged merchandise, and judicial mechanisms enforcing agreements across international frontiers. The sophistication of these commercial accords proves advanced comprehension of market dynamics and economic advantages, maintaining stable trading partnerships with distant allies. These treaties often included detailed provisions for merchant protection, dispute arbitration, and standardized measurement systems that facilitated smooth commercial operations. Diplomatic affairs with smaller kingdoms bordering Elam involved different approaches adapted to local political environments and economic concerns. Certain territories joined through negotiated settlements, preserving local ruling families, while establishing Elamite suzerainty, while others faced conquest through military operations and direct administrative oversight. Archaeological findings suggest Sukhumar administration utilized flexible governance approaches, balancing central control with regional independence, depending on particular territorial circumstances and strategic considerations. This adaptability became a hallmark of Elamite imperial administration and contributed significantly to the system's longevity. The architectural accomplishments of the Sukhumar period demonstrate both substantial resources available to Elamite leadership and their dedication to monumental building programs, displaying political strength and cultural refinement. The magnificent ziggurat at Choga Zambil, constructed during Untashnapirisha's reign around 1340 BC, represents the summit of Elamite architectural mastery and remains among the world's finest preserved ziggurats. This colossal structure, ascending approximately 60 meters above surrounding terrain, required millions of mud bricks and decades of construction involving hundreds of expert craftsmen and workers. The Choga Zambil compound stretched far beyond the central ziggurat, encompassing numerous shrines, housing areas, administrative structures, and protective barriers, creating a complete ceremonial metropolis devoted to Inshushinak worship and other Elamite divinities. Archaeological investigations have exposed sophisticated urban design integrating religious, governmental, and residential purposes within a carefully planned spatial organization. The compound featured advanced water management infrastructure, stone-paved roadways, and sewage systems maintaining hygienic conditions for large gatherings during religious celebrations and ceremonial events. Building methods utilized at Choga Zambil prove advanced engineering expertise and sophisticated organizational abilities. The ziggurat's foundation incorporated multiple material layers designed providing stable support for the massive superstructure while preventing moisture damage from underground water penetration. Constructors employed standardized brick dimensions and mortar mixtures, ensuring structural stability throughout the entire compound. Decorative features included glazed ceramic tiles, carved stone artwork, and metallic accessories, creating visually stunning facades that impressed visitors and demonstrated Elamite artistic capabilities. The integration of functional and aesthetic elements shows remarkable architectural sophistication. Palace construction during the Sukhumar era involved elaborate architectural schemes, combining practical administrative needs with symbolic demonstrations of political authority. The palace compound at Haftepe, built during the 14th century BC, contained multiple courtyards surrounded by reception chambers, living quarters, storage areas, and workshops supporting court operations. Archaeological investigations have uncovered sophisticated air circulation systems, ornamental tile work, and elaborate drainage networks, maintaining comfortable living environments for court staff and visiting officials. These amenities demonstrate the high standard of living maintained by Elamite elites and their commitment to hospitality in diplomatic contexts. The fusion of religious and administrative purposes within Sukulmar palace compounds reflects ceremonial activity's significant role in Elamite political culture. Palace sanctuaries provided venues for royal religious ceremonies, while expansive reception areas accommodated diplomatic rituals and court celebrations, reinforcing social hierarchies and political connections. These architectural achievements represent more than mere construction projects. They embody the Sukulma system's success in mobilizing resources, coordinating complex endeavors, and creating lasting monuments to Elamite civilization's achievements during this remarkable period of political innovation and cultural flowering. Archaeological discoveries expose the utilization of luxury materials, featuring gold foiling, sculpted elephant tusks, and foreign precious stones in palace ornamentation, proving the immense riches commanded by Sukulma leaders and their dedication to showcasing political dominance through architectural grandeur. These opulent displays served multiple purposes beyond mere decoration, functioning as diplomatic statements and symbols of divine favor that reinforced royal authority. The elaborate use of precious materials created environments that overwhelmed visitors with displays of wealth and sophistication, establishing psychological advantages during diplomatic negotiations and ceremonial occasions. Palace chambers adorned with gleaming surfaces and intricate decorative schemes communicated messages about Elamite prosperity and cultural refinement that extended far beyond the immediate architectural context. Cultural blossoming during the Sukulmar era encompassed numerous domains of technological and artistic advancement, establishing revolutionary benchmarks for craftsmanship and intellectual accomplishment. These developments represented more than incremental improvements. They constituted fundamental breakthroughs that redefined possibilities within their respective fields and influenced neighboring civilizations for generations. Progress in metallurgy created bronze artifacts of remarkable quality and artistic refinement, featuring ornate containers, armaments, and ritual implements, combining technical mastery with characteristic Elamite ornamental traditions. Archaeological examination of bronze creations demonstrates sophisticated comprehension of metal mixture compositions and molding methods, producing items with enhanced durability and resilience compared to previous eras. The evolution of innovative bronze working procedures enabled Elamite artisans to manufacture larger and more intricate items than formerly achievable. Archaeological excavations have revealed bronze containers measuring beyond 50 centimeters in diameter, with walls under 2 millimeters thick, proving extraordinary technical expertise in metalworking operations. These accomplishments demanded advanced understanding of furnace construction, temperature regulation, and surface treatment methods, representing substantial innovations in ancient metallurgical knowledge. The mastery displayed in these works suggests extensive experimentation and knowledge transfer between workshops, creating a cumulative tradition of technical excellence. Sculptural crafts achieved unprecedented levels of refinement during the Sukulmar period, with stone sculptors creating relief artworks and independent statues combining realistic portrayal with distinctive Elamite stylistic conventions. The renowned bronze and copper statue of Queen Napir-Asu, spouse of Untash Napir-Aisha, proves advanced casting methods and artistic vision, creating one of ancient Near Eastern sculpture's masterworks. This life-sized figure, weighing approximately 1,750 kilograms, demanded sophisticated foundry operations and completion processes, showcasing Sukulma period craftsmen's technical abilities. The statue's creation required unprecedented coordination between multiple specialists, from initial design through final polishing, demonstrating remarkable project management capabilities within Elamite workshops. The establishment of Middle Elamite linear script during this epoch represented a substantial progression in Elamite intellectual culture and administrative abilities. This writing framework derived from earlier Mesopotamian cuneiform traditions, but modified for Elamite language's specific demands, enabled more effective record-keeping and correspondence across extensive territories controlled by Sukulmar administration. Archaeological discoveries of administrative collections written in Middle Elamite script offer comprehensive insights into economic operations, judicial proceedings, and diplomatic exchanges, illuminating sophisticated institutional frameworks of Sukulmar governance. These archives reveal bureaucratic complexity rivaling any contemporary civilization while maintaining distinctly Elamite characteristics. Middle Elamite inscriptions expose intricate legal systems regulating property possession, commercial dealings, and familial relationships within Elamite society. These juridical documents prove sophisticated comprehension of contractual responsibilities, inheritance privileges, and conflict resolution procedures, maintaining social harmony and economic efficiency. The standardization of legal vocabulary and procedural demands across different territories demonstrates effective institutional coordination and successful implementation of uniform administrative practices throughout Elamite domains. This legal uniformity facilitated commerce and communication while preserving local customs within acceptable parameters. Literacy expansion during the Sukulma period generated fresh opportunities for cultural expression and intellectual growth. Archaeological findings suggest scribal academies functioned in major administrative hubs, preparing personnel for governmental service, while preserving and transmitting literary and religious traditions. Literary text production in Middle Elamite script includes religious songs, historical narratives, and administrative guides offering insights into Elamite intellectual culture and educational methods. These works demonstrate sophisticated literary techniques and complex theological concepts that influenced regional cultural development. Economic abundance during the Sukulma era supported unprecedented craft specialization and artistic creation. Archaeological discoveries reveal specialized workshop operations producing fabrics, pottery, metalwork, and carved items for both local consumption and foreign market export. These workshops utilized advanced manufacturing methods and sustained quality benchmarks, establishing Elamite manufactured products as premium merchandise in international commercial networks. The reputation of Elamite goods extended across known trade routes, creating demand that supported continued economic growth. Craft production organization involved sophisticated supply networks coordinating raw material acquisition, manufacturing operations, and distribution systems across extensive geographical regions. Archaeological analysis of workshop locations reveals standardized equipment, production methods, and quality oversight measures, ensuring consistent output meeting particular market demands. These operations' magnitude demonstrates considerable capital investment and strategic planning, creating sustainable competitive benefits for Elamite manufacturers in international markets. The success of these enterprises contributed significantly to overall imperial prosperity and political stability. The establishment of Kassite dominance in Babylon around 1595 BC fundamentally transformed the geopolitical environment of the ancient Near East, generating fresh opportunities and obstacles for Elamite political evolution. The Kassites, a population of uncertain origin likely originating from Zagros mountain regions, introduced different administrative customs and diplomatic methods, initially disrupting established Mesopotamian Elamite interaction patterns. Unlike Babylonian predecessors who maintained complex but predictable relationships with Sukulma administration, Kassite rulers pursued policies alternating between aggressive territorial expansion and diplomatic compromise, compelling Elamite leaders to modify strategies for managing western boundaries. Early decades of Kassite rule coincided with internal political difficulties within Elam, weakening central authority and fragmenting the previously unified Sukulma framework. Archaeological findings from Susa demonstrate reduced building activity and simplified administrative procedures during late 16th and early 15th centuries BC, indicating decreased resources available for major public construction programs. The triumvirate system providing stable governance for nearly 4 centuries began displaying strain indicators as competing regional concerns, challenged central coordination and territorial oversight became increasingly problematic, maintaining across extensive realms. Regional administrators who previously operated within Sukulma parameters began claiming greater independence, particularly in highland zones where geographical isolation made central supervision challenging. Archaeological surveys in Fars province reveal local construction ventures undertaken without apparent coordination with Susa-based authorities, including fortified facilities and administrative headquarters, suggesting independent resource allocation and planning. These developments indicate gradual power decentralization eventually leading to new dynastic structures better suited to changing political circumstances. The transformation reflected broader regional trends toward political fragmentation, affecting multiple contemporary civilizations. Traditional trade relationship disruption with Mesopotamia under early Kassite rule generated economic pressures contributing to Elamite political instability. Commercial records from this period display reduced long-distance trade volumes and modifications in goods types exchanged between Elamite and Mesopotamian traders. Kassites initially imposed different taxation frameworks and commercial regulations, disrupting established trading partnerships, forcing Elamite merchants to develop alternative market relationships and adapt to modified economic environments. These adjustments required time and resources, straining Elamite administrative capabilities during already challenging political transitions. Archaeological evidence from major Elamite commercial hubs reveals material culture changes reflecting reduced access to foreign luxury merchandise and manufactured items. Pottery collections from early Kassite periods show increased dependence on local production and simplified decorative patterns compared to elaborate imported ceramics, characteristic of Susa times. Metalwork from this era similarly demonstrates reduced imported material usage and simplified manufacturing procedures, suggesting craft workshops faced difficulties obtaining high-quality raw materials and maintaining previous production standards. These changes mark the end of one era and the beginning of another in Elamite cultural evolution. The rise of the Igilid dynasty around 1450 BC signaled the dawn of Elamite political resurrection and the creation of fresh institutional frameworks adapted to transformed regional conditions. This dynastic emergence represented far more than simple political succession. It constituted a fundamental reimagining of Elamite governance designed to address the failures that had plagued the late Susa period. Igilid leaders discarded the intricate triumvirate framework of the Susa era, embracing more concentrated monarchical power, while preserving aspects of regional governance, acknowledging geographical and cultural variety within Elamite domains. This shift reflected hard-learned lessons about the limitations of distributed authority in times of external pressure and internal fragmentation. Archaeological discoveries from Halftepe expose extensive building ventures undertaken during the early Igilid era, featuring palace compounds and governmental structures proving renewed royal wealth and political steadiness. These construction programs required massive resource mobilization and sophisticated project management, indicating successful consolidation of central authority after decades of political uncertainty. King Tepti-Ahar, among the earliest documented Igilid monarchs, launched military operations restoring Elamite dominance over regions that had achieved independence during the period of central vulnerability. Cuneiform records describe victorious campaigns against mountain clans and the re-establishment of tribute connections with formerly autonomous territories. These operations demanded considerable military assets and logistical abilities, demonstrating that Igilid administration had successfully consolidated adequate strength to project force across extensive geographical zones, while maintaining territorial unity against diverse threats. The scale of these campaigns suggests systematic military planning and the availability of substantial human and material resources. Igilid military structure integrated wisdom gained from earlier conflicts while adapting to fresh tactical demands imposed by evolving political circumstances. Archaeological investigations at military installations reveal improved fortress designs incorporating multiple defensive barriers and sophisticated siege-resistant characteristics. Weapon collections from this epoch display technological breakthroughs, featuring enhanced bronze compositions and novel armament types adapted for highland combat and siege warfare. These military advances prove systematic attempts to strengthen Elamite defensive abilities and offensive capacity against various enemy types. The creation of fresh administrative hubs during the Igilid period reflects intentional efforts establishing more effective territorial oversight and enhanced communication between central authorities and regional administrators. Archaeological surveys have located countless sites with the Igilid period construction phases, featuring facilities designed housing administrative staff, storing tax collections, and providing venues for regional assemblies and judicial hearings. These installations were strategically positioned, controlling crucial transportation corridors while providing rapid communication with central authorities during crises or routine administrative needs. The careful placement of these centers demonstrates sophisticated understanding of territorial control requirements and communication logistics. Enhanced road network development during the Aghalid period facilitated more effective administration and military operations across Elamite territory. Archaeological findings reveal systematic road-building programs connecting major administrative centers with standardized rest stations providing lodging and supply services for official travelers. These infrastructure investments demanded substantial resource allocation and coordinated planning, proving renewed institutional abilities and strategic long-term thinking by Iggy administrators. The road system's sophistication rivaled contemporary developments in other major civilizations while addressing Elam's unique geographical challenges. The transformation from Igi to Shutrukid dominance around 1350 BC occurred through processes remaining unclear from available textual sources, though archaeological findings suggest continuity in administrative methods and construction ventures, indicating peaceful transition rather than violent political disruption. The Shutrukid dynasty would oversee the most magnificent period of Middle Elamite political and cultural accomplishment, creating fresh benchmarks for royal authority and territorial expansion, surpassing even Sukulmar period achievements. This era represents the apex of Elamite civilization, combining military prowess with unprecedented cultural flowering. Untash-Naparisha, the most renowned Shutrukid monarch, gained power around 1340 BC and immediately initiated ambitious construction programs proving extraordinary royal resources and organizational abilities. His reign marked a turning point in Elamite history, establishing standards for royal magnificence that influenced subsequent rulers for centuries. The colossal ceremonial compound at Dur-Untash, modern Choga Zambil, represents ancient Elamite architectural achievements summit and among the most remarkable religious centers built anywhere in the ancient Near East during the 2nd millennium BC. This extraordinary complex demonstrates the convergence of religious devotion, political power, and architectural innovation at unprecedented scales. The central ziggurat, dedicated to Inshushinak, ascended 5 distinct tiers, reaching approximately 60 meters height, demanding millions of precisely manufactured bricks and decades of coordinated construction labor. The engineering challenges overcome during this construction prove remarkable technical sophistication and project management capabilities. The Dur-Untash compound stretched across roughly 100 hectares, encompassing numerous temple districts, housing areas for religious staff, administrative structures, and defensive installations, creating a complete ceremonial metropolis. Archaeological investigations have exposed sophisticated urban design, integrating religious, governmental, and residential purposes within carefully planned spatial arrangements. The compound featured advanced hydraulic infrastructure, supplying fresh water throughout all zones, while maintaining drainage systems preventing flooding during seasonal precipitation. Paved thoroughfares connected different functional districts, while defensive barriers with multiple entrances controlled access and provided security for substantial populations gathering during major religious celebrations. Building methods utilized at Dur-Untash prove extraordinary engineering refinement and organizational abilities. The ziggurat's foundation incorporated numerous construction phases, using different materials and techniques, design providing stable support for the massive superstructure, while preventing structural collapse from earthquakes or foundation settlement. Constructors employed standardized brick dimensions manufactured in specialized workshops, maintaining consistent quality benchmarks, while mortar formulations were carefully developed, providing optimal bonding strength and weather resistance. These technical innovations represent significant advances in ancient construction methodology. Ornamental features included glazed brick facades with elaborate geometric designs, carved stone artwork depicting religious narratives, and metallic accessories fabricated from bronze and precious metals. These decorative elements served both aesthetic and symbolic purposes, communicating complex religious and political messages to visitors and worshippers. Dur-Untash's religious importance extended beyond architectural magnificence, encompassing intricate theological concepts and ceremonial practices, reinforcing Elamite cultural identity and royal legitimacy. The ziggurat functioned as Inshushinak's earthly dwelling, whose elevated position above surrounding terrain symbolized supreme authority over Elamite domains and populations. Archaeological discoveries reveal elaborate ritual deposits within the ziggurat's foundation, featuring precious artifacts, inscribed documents, and animal remains, proving sophisticated religious practices and substantial resource investment in ceremonial activities. These deposits provide insights into Elamite religious beliefs and ritual practices previously unknown from textual sources. Temple districts surrounding the central ziggurat house sanctuaries dedicated to various Elamite divinities, creating comprehensive religious headquarters serving populations throughout Elamite territory. Archaeological investigations have revealed specialized workshops within the compound producing religious artifacts, ceremonial containers, and ritual implements required for temple services. These workshops employed expert craftsmen maintaining superior quality standards, while developing distinctive artistic styles, combining traditional Elamite designs with innovations reflecting contemporary religious and political developments. The artistic production at Dur-Untash influenced regional artistic traditions for generations. Untash-Naparisha's military expeditions extended Elamite territorial dominance across regions never previously acknowledging Elamite authority, including central Iranian plateau areas and Persian Gulf coastal territories. Cuneiform records describe victorious operations against countless adversaries, including highland clans, coastal communities, and rival kingdoms challenging Elamite concerns. These expeditions demanded sophisticated logistical preparation and coordination between multiple army units operating across immense distances and challenging terrain conditions. The successful completion of these campaigns proves exceptional military organization and resource management capabilities. Military structure developed under Untash-Napirisha incorporated technological innovations and tactical modifications enhancing Elamite combat effectiveness against various opponent types. Archaeological findings reveal weapon technology improvements, featuring novel bronze compositions providing superior strength and durability for swords, spears, and arrowheads. Armor designs incorporated overlapping scales and reinforced connections providing enhanced protection, while maintaining mobility requirements for mounting combat and siege operations. These military innovations established Elamite forces among the most effective armies of their era, capable of achieving victory against diverse enemies across varied terrain conditions. Siege machinery featured sophisticated battering devices, climbing apparatus, and defensive barriers enabling victorious assaults against fortified strongholds. These technological advances represented quantum leaps in military engineering, incorporating innovations that would influence siege warfare for centuries to come. Elamite territorial dominance expansion under the Shutrikid dynasty demanded development of fresh administrative procedures capable of governing varied populations with distinct cultural customs and economic frameworks. Rather than forcing uniform governmental structures, Shutrikid monarchs utilized adaptable governance approaches, preserving local institutions while guaranteeing ultimate Elamite supremacy through tribute demands, military service requirements, and judicial supervision. This methodology required refined diplomatic expertise and cultural awareness, balancing central oversight with local independence, maintaining stability across extensive and diverse domains. The successful implementation of such flexible governance represents one of the most sophisticated administrative achievements in ancient history, predating similar imperial strategies by centuries. Conquered territory integration into Elamite administrative frameworks involved establishing regional headquarters, staffed by Elamite administrators supervising local governors and monitoring compliance with central directives. Archaeological discoveries reveal administrative facility construction in newly conquered zones, featuring infrastructure for revenue collection, legal proceedings, and military conscription. These installations were engineered projecting Elamite authority while providing practical infrastructure for governance operations and correspondence with central leadership. The strategic placement and design of these facilities demonstrate remarkable understanding of imperial administration requirements. Religious and cultural evolution during the Middle Elamite epoch reflected both continuity with earlier customs and innovations, responding to changing political conditions and expanded territorial dominance. Inshushinak's elevation to supreme deity status within the Elamite pantheon served multiple purposes, providing religious authorization for royal power while creating unifying symbols, transcending regional differences and cultural variations across Elamite domains. Archaeological findings reveal systematic promotion of Inshushinak devotion through temple building, artistic depiction, and ceremonial practices, establishing consistent religious observances throughout Elamite territories. This religious standardization facilitated imperial unity, while respecting local traditions through carefully managed syncretistic processes. Mesopotamian deity integration into Elamite pantheon demonstrates sophisticated theological reasoning and practical political considerations, balancing religious innovation with traditional beliefs. Divinities like Marduk and Ishtar were incorporated into Elamite religious practices through syncretic mechanisms, identifying them with existing Elamite gods, while preserving their distinctive characteristics and worship requirements. This religious adaptability facilitated population integration with different religious customs, while maintaining essential features of Elamite cultural identity and political legitimacy. Such theological flexibility represented advanced religious thinking that recognized diversity as strength rather than weakness. Archaeological findings from temple locations reveal new ceremonial practice development combining traditional Elamite religious observances with elements derived from Mesopotamian and other foreign customs. These hybrid ceremonies demanded specialized knowledge and training, leading to priestly academy establishment and religious procedure codification in written guides. These religious developments' complexity indicates substantial intellectual activity and institutional refinement supporting Middle Elamite period cultural achievements. The systematic approach to religious integration demonstrates remarkable organizational capabilities, extending far beyond military conquest. Middle Elamite period artistic accomplishments encompassed multiple media, establishing fresh benchmarks for technical excellence and aesthetic refinement. Bronze working achieved unprecedented complexity levels, with craftsmen creating elaborate containers, ceremonial armaments, and sculptural artifacts combining advanced metallurgical methods with distinctive Elamite ornamental customs. Queen Nipirusu's renowned bronze and copper statue represents Middle Elamite sculptural achievement's pinnacle, proving extraordinary technical expertise in casting operations and artistic vision in compositional arrangement. This masterpiece demonstrates the convergence of technical mastery and artistic inspiration that characterized the period's greatest works. Ceramic creation during the Middle Elamite era incorporated fresh decorative methods and container designs, reflecting both indigenous innovations and selective borrowing from foreign artistic customs. Archaeological collections reveal sophisticated painting procedures using multiple pigments and intricate geometric designs requiring specialized expertise and careful execution. Ceramic form standardization across different territories indicates effective quality oversight and centralized production facility, operations supplying markets throughout Elamite domains. This standardization facilitated trade while maintaining artistic excellence across vast geographical areas. Shutruk-Narhunter's ascension around 1190 BC inaugurated the most remarkable phase of Elamite military expansion and cultural accomplishment in civilization's extensive history. Unlike predecessors who concentrated primarily on consolidating territorial oversight within traditional Elamite boundaries, Shutruk-Narhunter pursued aggressive expansionist strategies, transforming Elam from regional authority into dominant imperial force, capable of challenging ancient Near East's greatest kingdoms. Archaeological discoveries from Susa expose massive construction programs initiated during his early reign, featuring extensive palace renovations and fresh administrative quarter creation, designed accommodating expanded bureaucratic apparatus required for governing conquered territories across Mesopotamia and Iranian plateau. The military apparatus Shutruk-Narhunter assembled represented revolutionary advancement in Elamite warfare capabilities, incorporating technological innovations and organizational reforms, providing decisive advantages over contemporary adversaries. This military revolution transformed Elam into the ancient world's most formidable military power. Weapon collections from this epoch reveal systematic metallurgy improvements, with bronze alloys achieving superior hardness and durability through refined smelting procedures and carefully controlled cooling operations. Elamite smiths developed novel sword configurations featuring extended tangs and reinforced handles, providing improved balance and striking force. Spear points incorporated hollow ground blades, enhancing penetration abilities against improved armor systems utilized by Mesopotamian forces. These technological advances gave Elamite warriors significant combat advantages in both individual encounters and large-scale battles. Shutrukid army organizational framework reflected sophisticated comprehension of combined arms tactics and logistical demands for extended expeditions across immense distances. Infantry formations included specialized units equipped for different tactical functions, featuring heavily armored assault troops for frontal attacks, mobile archer contingents for harassment and pursuit activities, and engineering specialists trained in siege warfare methods. Archaeological investigations at military installations reveal systematic training facility evidence, where soldiers practiced coordinated maneuvers and siege operations using standardized equipment and established tactical procedures. This professional military education system created unprecedented battlefield effectiveness. Logistical abilities developed under Shutruk Nahante enabled Elamite armies maintaining extended campaigns distant from homeland bases, without experiencing supply shortages limiting previous military operations. Archaeological surveys along major expedition routes have identified supply warehouses and staging zones providing food, weapons, and replacement equipment for advancing forces. These installations featured granaries storing thousands of grain tons, workshops repairing weapons and equipment, and enclosures maintaining pack animals and cavalry horses, essential for military mobility in mountainous terrain. The scale of these logistical preparations demonstrates unprecedented strategic planning. Shutrikid military preparation's systematic nature becomes apparent through archaeological analysis of weapon production facilities operating during this period. Excavations at specialized workshops reveal mass production technique evidence, standardizing weapon types, while maintaining consistent quality benchmarks across large military equipment quantities. These facilities employed labor division principles, assigning specific tasks to individual craftsmen, increasing production efficiency while ensuring each weapon met established performance standards. This industrial approach to military production represented revolutionary advancement in ancient manufacturing. The scale of these operations proves Shutruk Nahante planned military campaigns years in advance, investing substantial resources creating material foundations for sustained warfare. This long-term strategic thinking, combined with unprecedented organizational capabilities, positioned Elam for its greatest period of imperial expansion and cultural achievement. The convergence of military innovation, administrative sophistication, and cultural flowering during Shutruk Nahante's reign created conditions for Elamite civilization to achieve its historical apex, establishing standards for imperial governance and military organization that influenced subsequent ancient Near Eastern development for generations. Shutrikid military prowess faced its initial major challenge through expeditions against Babylonian domains, experiencing political turmoil following Kassite authority decline. Shutruk Nahante exploited internal Babylonian discord by backing rival throne contenders, while simultaneously organizing direct military intervention. Archaeological discoveries from frontier zones reveal forward command post construction providing staging grounds for offensive actions, while safeguarding Elamite territory from potential retaliation. These fortifications featured refined defensive arrangements, incorporating multiple barrier systems, subterranean water sources, and messaging networks enabling swift coordination with central command. The sophisticated engineering of these installations demonstrates unprecedented military planning and resource allocation for sustained offensive operations. The Babylonian invasion around 1158 BC represented decades of military preparation and political manipulation culminating, positioning Elam for decisive intervention in Mesopotamian politics. Shutruk Nahante's forces progressed along numerous pathways converging on primary Babylonian metropolises, preventing effective defensive coordination while sustaining pressure across extensive battlefronts. These operations' velocity and synchronization prove sophisticated command structures, enabling Elamite leaders adapting tactics to evolving battlefield situations while preserving overall strategic unity. The successful execution of such complex multi-front operations required unprecedented military organization and communication capabilities. Babylon's siege and seizure demanded advanced siege methods and specialized apparatus showcasing Elamite engineering abilities. Archaeological findings from this epoch reveal enhanced battering device development featuring bronze-reinforced tips and protective enclosures, shielding operators from defensive bombardment. Assault towers incorporated multiple archer and infantry platforms, while sophisticated counterbalance mechanisms enabled heavy stone projectile deployment against fortified locations. Babylon's formidable defense successful breach proved Elamite military engineers had mastered intricate technical demands of siege warfare against major metropolitan centers. Babylon's systematic plundering following capture revealed Shutruk-Narhunti's comprehension of psychological warfare and symbolic victory's importance establishing imperial dominance. The renowned Hammurabi Code stellar removal, alongside countless monuments and religious artifacts, served multiple strategic objectives beyond simple material acquisition. These trophies provided concrete victory evidence displayed in Susa, demonstrating royal authority, while their Babylon removal symbolically transferred divine approval and historical legitimacy from Mesopotamian to Elamite leadership. Such symbolic warfare represented sophisticated understanding of political psychology and imperial legitimacy requirements. Massive stone monument transportation across hundreds of kilometers through challenging terrain demanded sophisticated logistical organization and specialized equipment, proving extraordinary organizational abilities. Archaeological examination of Hammurabi Code stelae reveals careful removal preparation evidence, featuring specialized sledge construction and transportation route modifications, accommodating oversized cargo. These operations' successful completion indicates Elamite engineers possessed advanced mechanical principle knowledge and construction methods, enabling seemingly impossible task accomplishment. The engineering expertise required for such undertakings rivals any contemporary civilization's capabilities. Elamite administration establishment over conquered Babylonian territories required fresh governance mechanism development, managing populations with different cultural customs and established political expectations. Rather than imposing uniform Elamite administrative frameworks, Shutruk-Narhunti adopted flexible methodologies preserving local institutions while ensuring ultimate Elamite supremacy through strategically positioned officials and military installations. Archaeological discoveries reveal administrative facility construction in major Babylonian cities designed housing Elamite governors and staff, while providing tax collection, judicial proceeding, and Susa communication infrastructure. These installations represented permanent imperial presence rather than temporary military occupation. Babylonian administrative personnel integration into Elamite governance frameworks demonstrates sophisticated comprehension of complex urban society governing practical requirements. Numerous Babylonian scribes, magistrates, and technical experts retained positions under Elamite supervision, providing essential service continuity while facilitating administrative knowledge transfer to Elamite officials. This pragmatic methodology minimized economic activity and social structure disruption, while enabling Elamite authorities benefiting from centuries of Mesopotamian administrative experience and institutional evolution. Such administrative wisdom prevented the collapse of conquered territories while maximizing their productive capacity. Shutruk-Narhunti's sons Kutir-Narhunti and Shilak-in-Shushanak extended Elamite territorial dominance across regions never previously acknowledging foreign supremacy. Archaeological discoveries from northern Mesopotamian locations reveal destruction phases dating to this period, followed by construction stages reflecting Elamite administrative presence and cultural influence. These expeditions demanded even more sophisticated logistical abilities than previous operations, as Elamite armies operated at unprecedented distances from homeland bases, while maintaining effective coordination and supply networks. The successful execution of such extended campaigns proves remarkable organizational maturity. Kutir-Narhunti's operations against Assyrian territories demonstrated Elamite readiness challenging contemporary Near East's most powerful military forces. Archaeological findings from Assyrian locations reveal Elamite military presence evidence, featuring distinctive armaments and equipment confirming these campaign extents. Temporary success of these operations against Assyrian forces, celebrated for military expertise and advanced siege methods, indicates Elamite military capabilities reached levels enabling successful competition against any contemporary adversary under favorable conditions. This achievement represents the apex of Elamite military development. Shutrukid period administrative reforms created institutional frameworks necessary for governing expanded territories under Elamite control. Traditional Ancient and Susa dual monarchy system received supplementation through fresh regional administrative divisions, reflecting conquered territory geographical and cultural diversity. Archaeological discoveries reveal provincial center establishment equipped with standardized administrative infrastructure, featuring record-keeping archives, tax collection treasuries, and appointed governor residential quarters with their staffs. These installations created permanent imperial infrastructure, supporting long-term territorial control. Enhanced communication system development enabled Susa central authorities maintaining effective distant province oversight, while ensuring rapid order and information transmission across the expanded empire. Archaeological surveys have identified relay stations and communication points along major routes, providing official messenger facilities while maintaining fresh horses for rapid transportation. These installations included fortified facilities protecting valuable communications from bandits and enemy operatives, while providing secure official document and diplomatic correspondence storage. The communication network's sophistication enabled real-time imperial management across vast distances. Weight, measurement and currency system standardization across Elamite territories facilitated economic integration, while simplifying tax collection and commercial regulation administrative procedures. Archaeological findings reveal standardized measuring device, widespread distribution, and uniform accounting procedure adoption, enabling efficient resource management across diverse economic frameworks. These administrative innovations demanded substantial institutional development and numerous personnel training in fresh procedures and technical requirements. The successful implementation of such comprehensive reforms proves remarkable governmental sophistication and organizational capabilities. The imperial infrastructure created during Shutruk Nahunta's reign established foundations for Elamite territorial control that would persist for generations. Archaeological evidence demonstrates construction project scales and administrative system complexity rivaling any contemporary imperial achievement, while maintaining distinctly Elamite characteristics and cultural identity. This combination of military prowess, administrative wisdom, and cultural confidence created conditions enabling Elamite civilization achieving its greatest territorial extent and political influence. The Shutrukid legacy would influence ancient Near Eastern political development for centuries, establishing precedents for imperial organization and cultural integration that informed subsequent civilizations. The remarkable achievements during this period demonstrate human organizational capacity limits while showcasing ancient civilizations' sophisticated capabilities when conditions aligned favorably for concentrated effort and strategic vision implementation. Professional administrative class establishment recruited throughout Elamite domains provided essential human resources governing the expanded empire, while generating career pathways attracting gifted individuals to governmental service. This systematic approach to bureaucratic development represented revolutionary advancement in ancient administrative practice, creating sustainable institutional frameworks supporting long-term imperial governance. Archaeological discoveries from administrative hubs reveal scribal academy and training facility operations preparing personnel for diverse administrative functions while maintaining uniform standards and procedures. These educational institutions represented sophisticated investment in human capital development, recognizing skilled administration's crucial importance for imperial success. These institution curricula included multilingual instruction, legal procedure training, accounting methodology, and diplomatic protocol education reflecting imperial administration's intricate demands. The comprehensive nature of this educational program demonstrates remarkable understanding of imperial governance complexity and preparation requirements for effective territorial management. Such systematic approach to administrative education created cadres of skilled bureaucrats, capable of implementing imperial policies across culturally diverse territories, while maintaining loyalty to central authority. This administrative class became the backbone of Elamite imperial success, enabling effective governance across unprecedented territorial extents. Shutrukid period monumental architecture reflected both substantial resources available to Elamite monarchs and their dedication to displaying imperial authority through magnificent construction programs. These architectural achievements served multiple purposes beyond mere display, functioning as administrative centers, religious focal points, and symbols of imperial permanence. In Shushinak, temple complex expansion at Susa involved fresh ceremonial chamber additions, administrative quarters, and residential infrastructure, creating among ancient Near East's largest religious centers. Archaeological investigations have exposed sophisticated architectural organization, integrating multiple construction phases while preserving aesthetic unity and functional effectiveness throughout the expanded facility. The temple complex's scale required unprecedented resource mobilization and construction coordination, demonstrating imperial administration's remarkable organizational capabilities. These architectural achievements established standards for monumental construction influencing regional development for centuries. Shutrukid building program construction methods prove extraordinary engineering abilities and organizational refinement. Fired brick utilization in major construction represented significant advancement over earlier mud brick techniques, providing enhanced durability and weather resistance while enabling more ambitious architectural arrangements. Archaeological analysis reveals sophisticated structural engineering principle comprehension, featuring buttress usage, arch construction and foundation systems providing stable support for multi-story structures and heavy roof loads. These technical innovations enabled architectural achievements previously impossible with available construction methods. Shutrukid architecture decorative schemes incorporated artistic elements throughout the expanded empire, while preserving distinctive stylistic customs. Glazed brick facades featured intricate geometric designs and figural depictions combining traditional Elamite motifs with Mesopotamian and other foreign artistic traditions. Archaeological discoveries reveal specialized workshop operations producing these decorative components using advanced ceramic procedures and sophisticated firing methods, achieving consistent pigmentation and surface characteristics. These workshops represented centers of artistic innovation and technical excellence. Shutrukid period royal inscriptions provide comprehensive military expedition, construction program, and religious activity accounts demonstrating sophisticated literary customs and historical awareness. These texts, carved in stone and inscribed on metallic artifacts, employed elaborate poetic vocabulary and complex narrative frameworks showcasing advanced literary abilities and cultural refinement. Archaeological discoveries of inscribed artifacts throughout Elamite territory indicate systematic campaigns promoting royal accomplishments, while establishing historical documentation preserving Shutrukid achievements for future generations. This historical consciousness represents remarkable cultural maturity and institutional sophistication. Middle Elamite artistic tradition development during this epoch encompassed multiple media, establishing fresh technical excellence and aesthetic achievement benchmarks. Bronze working achieved unprecedented refinement levels, with craftsmen creating elaborate ceremonial containers, armaments, and sculptural artifacts combining advanced metallurgical methods with distinctive Elamite ornamental customs. Archaeological examination reveals complex alloy composition usage and sophisticated casting procedures, enabling large-scale sculptural production and intricate decorative artifact creation with extraordinary precision and artistic quality. These achievements represent pinnacles of ancient metallurgical artistry. Shutrukid period arts and crafts patronage generated economic opportunities for skilled artisans, while establishing Elamite cultural products as premium merchandise in international markets. Archaeological findings reveal specialized workshop operations producing textiles, ceramics, metalwork, and carved artifacts for both domestic consumption and foreign market export. These workshops utilized advanced production procedures while maintaining quality benchmarks, establishing Elamite manufactured merchandise as luxury and sophistication symbols throughout the ancient Near East. This commercial success contributed significantly to imperial prosperity and international prestige. Shutrukid period diplomatic relationships reflected Elam's emergence as major regional authority, capable of negotiating with other great kingdoms on equal terms. Correspondence preserved in various archives revealed sophisticated diplomatic procedures and negotiation approaches, balancing Elamite concerns against neighboring power interests while maintaining adaptability necessary for changing political condition responses. These diplomatic activities demanded specialized international law knowledge, cultural custom understanding, and political tradition comprehension, proving remarkable institutional refinement and cultural awareness. The diplomatic sophistication achieved during this period established precedents for international relations, influencing subsequent ancient Near Eastern political development. Marriage partnerships arranged during this era created kinship networks facilitating diplomatic correspondence, while providing dispute resolution mechanisms through family mediation rather than military confrontation. Archaeological discoveries from royal burial locations reveal elaborate funeral goods associated with foreign royal women, indicating elevated status within Elamite society and crucial international relationship maintenance roles. These marriage connections established enduring bonds between ruling families, influencing political decisions and military strategies for generations following their initial establishment. Such diplomatic marriages represented sophisticated understanding of international relations and long-term political planning. Distant region trade relationships expanded significantly during the Shutrukid period, reflecting both increased foreign good demand and improved transportation infrastructure, facilitating long-distance commerce. Archaeological findings reveal Elamite trading post-establishment across Iranian plateau and regular commercial contact maintenance with Central Asian, Indus Valley, and Eastern Anatolian communities. These commercial relationships generated substantial revenues through customs duties and tribute payments while providing luxury good and raw material access unavailable within Elamite territory. The commercial success achieved during this period supported imperial expansion while creating economic foundations for cultural flourishing. Later Shutrukid period Assyrian military confrontations demonstrated both remarkable achievements and ultimate limitations of Elamite imperial expansion. Archaeological discoveries from border territories reveal extensive defensive installation construction designed protecting Elamite territory from Assyrian counterattacks, while providing bases for continued offensive operations. These fortifications incorporated advanced defensive arrangements, featuring multiple wall systems, underground passages, and sophisticated water management infrastructure, enabling defenders withstanding extended sieges while maintaining communication with relief forces and supply installations. Nebuchadnezzar's devastating Babylonian invasion around 1110 BC shattered the imperial structure Shutrukid dynasty had constructed over the preceding century, marking irreversible decline, beginning that would fragment Elamite political unity and reduce the once mighty kingdom to competing local authorities. Archaeological discoveries from Susa reveal extensive destruction phases dating to this period, with burned administrative structures, scattered armaments, and hastily buried treasure collections providing stark evidence of violence accompanying Babylonian assault. The destruction's systematic nature suggests Nebuchadnezzar's forces deliberately targeted Elamite imperial power symbols and infrastructure. The destruction encompassed not merely military installations but also administrative centers, religious complexes, and royal palaces serving as Shutrukid rule's institutional foundation. This comprehensive assault aimed at eliminating Elamite imperial capacity permanently, rather than achieving temporary military victory. The Babylonian army descending upon Elam represented formidable military force equipped with advanced siege methods and motivated by decades of resentment against Elamite Mesopotamian territory domination. This campaign marked ancient Near Eastern imperial balance transformation, ending Elamite supremacy while establishing new regional power configurations that would persist for centuries. The catastrophic conclusion of Elamite imperial ambitions provides sobering reminder of ancient political achievement fragility, while highlighting remarkable accomplishments achieved during civilization's golden age under Shutrukid leadership. Nebuchadnezzar's forces wielded iron armaments, providing crucial advantages over bronze weaponry remaining standard in Elamite military arsenals, while their siege apparatus incorporated technological breakthroughs developed through extensive conflicts against other regional authorities. Babylonian forces' rapid penetration of Elamite fortifications indicates systematic intelligence collection and meticulous planning, exploiting vulnerabilities in defensive frameworks protecting Elamite domains for generations. The Iron Age military revolution had fundamentally altered ancient Near Eastern warfare balance, giving armies equipped with superior metallurgy decisive combat advantages. Elamite forces, despite their organizational excellence and tactical sophistication, found themselves technologically outmatched by adversaries who had embraced newer metallurgical innovations more rapidly and completely. The Susa's destruction encompassed more than military conquest. It constituted deliberate attempts erasing Elamite imperial accomplishment symbols while transferring their legitimizing authority to Babylonian leadership. Hammurabi Code stellar recovery alongside countless monuments that Shutrukid monarchs had relocated from Babylon as victory trophies provided Nebuchadnezzar with concrete triumph evidence while symbolically reversing humiliations Babylon endured under Elamite supremacy. Archaeological investigations have exposed systematic pillaging evidence, targeting not only valuable artifacts, but also administrative collections and religious documents containing Elamite governance, institutional memory, and cultural customs. This comprehensive cultural destruction aimed at eliminating Elamite civilization's intellectual foundations rather than merely achieving military victory. The systematic nature of this cultural assault demonstrates Babylonian understanding that lasting victory required destroying the knowledge systems and institutional traditions that could enable Elamite recovery. By targeting archives, temples, and educational centers, Nebuchadnezzar's forces sought to prevent future Elamite resurgence through elimination of cultural continuity mechanisms. Babylonian invasion's immediate consequences created power vacuums that existing Elamite institutions proved incapable of addressing. The intricate administrative mechanisms governing territories spanning from Persian Gulf to central Iranian highlands collapsed almost instantly, as communication networks suffered severance while regional administrators found themselves isolated from central command. Archaeological discoveries from provincial headquarters reveal numerous administrative facility abandonments during this epoch, with precious artifacts hastily concealed and official documentation destroyed, preventing capture by advancing hostile forces. The speed of institutional collapse demonstrates how dependent imperial administration had become on centralized coordination and communication. Central authority fragmentation triggered political disintegration cascades, transforming unified Elamite empire into autonomous region patchworks governed by local strongmen, claiming legitimacy through various traditional authority, military strength, and religious authorization combinations. This political atomization reflected underlying tensions that imperial administration had suppressed but not resolved. Fars province highland territories witnessed local administrators who had managed domains on behalf of Shutrigid monarchs, declaring independence while establishing hereditary dynasties controlling strategic mountain passages and commercial pathways. Archaeological surveys reveal fresh fortified facility construction during this period, designed serving as regional authority centers independent of Susa's control while defending against both external adversaries and rival Elamite claimants. These local dynasty emergences reflected geographical and cultural diversity always characterizing Elamite territory but suppressed under imperial governance. Highland zones with predominantly pastoral economies developed different political frameworks than lowland agricultural districts, while communities with distinct ethnic and linguistic identities claimed autonomy impossible under centralized rule. Archaeological findings reveal local artistic tradition and religious practice revivals that had been standardized during imperial periods, indicating conscious campaigns establishing distinctive cultural identities, legitimizing political independence from Susa. This cultural renaissance represented attempts reconstructing pre-imperial identity markers that could justify autonomous governance claims. Anshan Kingdom, which had functioned as co-capital alongside Susa during Elamite power heights, emerged as among the most significant successor states during this fragmentation period. Archaeological excavations at Malian, ancient Anshan's location, reveal continued construction activities and administrative operations, indicating substantial autonomy from Susa-based authority. Anshan rulers maintained control over extensive highland domains while continuing traditional Elamite royal title usage, though their actual authority extended over much smaller territories than imperial predecessors had governed. This continuity of symbols amid reduced substance demonstrates attempts maintaining legitimacy through historical connections despite dramatically altered circumstances. Political organization developing in Anshan during this epoch reflected adaptation to diminished resources and territorial oversight, while preserving legitimacy claims based on historical precedent and traditional authority. Archaeological discoveries reveal modest palace complex construction incorporating imperial architectural tradition elements, while acknowledging practical limitations imposed by reduced economic resources. Administrative collections from this period display simplified bureaucratic procedures and reduced territorial scope, though continued Middle Elamite script usage and traditional administrative terminology indicates efforts preserving institutional continuity despite changed circumstances. This administrative conservatism reflects attempts maintaining governmental legitimacy through procedural continuity. Lowland regions surrounding Susa experienced different political fragmentation patterns reflecting their distinct economic foundations and strategic vulnerabilities. Fertile agricultural plains supporting large urban populations became contested territories where competing claimants struggled controlling irrigation systems and commercial routes remaining economically valuable despite political disruption. Archaeological discoveries reveal numerous small fortified settlement construction during this era, designed protecting agricultural communities from raiding, while providing bases for local military leaders competing for regional dominance. These defensive settlements represent adaptation to new security environments where central protection no longer existed. Centralized irrigation management breakdown created particular challenges for lowland agricultural communities, depending on coordinated water distribution systems for economic survival. Archaeological surveys reveal canal abandonment evidence and agricultural decline in numerous areas, as local communities lacked organizational capabilities and resources necessary, maintaining complex hydraulic infrastructure without central coordination. Resulting economic disruption contributed to population movements and social instability, further complicating stable local governance structure establishment efforts. The interdependence of agricultural systems and political organization became starkly apparent as both collapsed simultaneously. Economic disruption during this period extended far beyond immediate military destruction effects, encompassing fundamental trade pattern and resource availability changes, undermining Elamite prosperity foundations. Imperial administration collapse severed commercial relationships connecting Elamite merchants with ancient Near Eastern markets, while political instability made long-distance travel dangerous and unpredictable. Archaeological discoveries from commercial centers reveal sharp declines in traded good volume and variety, with luxury items and foreign manufactured products becoming increasingly rare in archaeological assemblages from this period. The commercial network collapse forced communities to rely on local resources and regional exchange systems operating at much smaller scales than replaced imperial commercial frameworks. Traditional trade route disruption forced Elamite communities developing fresh economic strategies based on local resources and regional exchange networks operating on much smaller scales than imperial commercial systems they replaced. Archaeological pottery assemblage analysis reveals increased local production reliance and simplified manufacturing techniques, while metalwork shows reduced high-quality raw material access and less sophisticated production methods. These changes indicate fundamental economic organization shifts reflecting both diminished resources and altered political circumstances, making traditional commercial activities impossible to maintain. The economic transformation accompanying political collapse proves how extensively imperial systems had reshaped local productive activities. Late 2nd millennium BC climate change contributed additional pressures, complicating recovery efforts while influencing political fragmentation patterns. Paleoclimatic evidence suggests regional increased aridity and more variable precipitation patterns, reducing agricultural productivity while making irrigation systems less reliable. Archaeological discoveries from agricultural locations reveal cropping pattern changes and settlement location modifications, reflecting adaptation to altered environmental conditions, while pollen analysis indicates vegetation pattern shifts affecting both agricultural and pastoral activities. Environmental stress combined with political chaos created compounding challenges that overwhelmed remaining institutional capabilities. The convergence of military defeat, political fragmentation, economic collapse, and environmental stress created conditions making Elamite recovery extremely difficult. The civilization that had once dominated the ancient Near East found itself reduced to competing local authorities struggling for survival in an increasingly hostile environment. This catastrophic transformation marks one of ancient history's most dramatic civilizational collapses, demonstrating how even the most sophisticated political and cultural achievements remain vulnerable to confluence of adverse circumstances. The Elamite experience provides sobering lessons about imperial fragility, while honoring remarkable accomplishments achieved during their golden age of power and cultural flourishing. Shifting environmental conditions during this era profoundly affected mountain pastoral societies, reliant on predictable rainfall for sustaining their herds and grazing requirements. Archaeological studies show settlement pattern transformations revealing groups either migrating to regions with more dependable water supplies or altering their livelihoods to lessen their vulnerability to climate fluctuations. These adjustments fueled not only demographic changes and territorial disputes, but also amplified instability, rendering consistent governance even more challenging. Population shifts mirrored immediate military devastation, as well as longer-term responses to shifting economic situations and environmental stress. Excavations frequently exposed deserted urban sites and the emergence of new communities in previously unused lands, evidence of significant population redistribution across former Elamite lands. In this climate of displacement, fresh communities rapidly tested local infrastructures, often fueling social tension and political instability in places once considered secure. Especially for urban centers destroyed by invasions, the dispersal of skilled artisans and administrators created serious difficulties for host communities trying to maintain essential economic and institutional activities. Evidence points to the migration of technical know-how and artisanal skills, as specialists resettled and refashioned their handiwork using unfamiliar materials and techniques found in their new environments. This migration had a dual effect. On one hand, spreading technological knowledge and cultural motifs across new regions, on the other reducing the concentrated expertise and collective memory that once powered the grand achievements of imperial Elamite society. Amid turmoil and economic decline, the core aspects of Elamite culture and spiritual traditions persisted with striking determination. Archaeology uncovers ongoing worship and ritual practices, even in locations facing relentless instability. Communities channeled limited resources into temple upkeep and perennial festivals, keeping traditions alive and offering validation and identity during times of uncertainty. Devotion to Inshushinak, once the patron of mighty Susa, did not wane. Small shrines and sacred deposits continued to appear, and votive offerings attested to the tenacity of spiritual devotion. Middle Elamite script lingered in inscriptions, demonstrating that both religious texts and ceremonial instruction remained valued and protected. These religious continuities furnished critical legitimacy for new regional rulers, whose authority rested on traditional spiritual sanction instead of central imperial appointment. Artistic life, too, displayed both fidelity to ancient styles and clever adaptation to reduced means and new influences. Pottery, metalwork, and sculpted pieces retained signature Elamite decorative touches, often merging them with motifs from adjacent cultures and local creativity. Such persistence signaled not only the survival of master craftsmen, but an enduring demand for objects expressing Elamite pride, even amid fragmentation and hardship. With regional diversification, areas began developing distinctive artistic styles and decorative trademarks, marking intentional efforts at crafting new identities while safeguarding links to shared Elamite heritage. These divergent artistic traditions further sharpened the era's political fragmentation, yet their foundation in Elamite design maintained a thread of cultural continuity. Linguistically, the ongoing use of Middle Elamite writing in official records and royal proclamations shows remarkable persistence of literate traditions and administrative routines despite societal breakdown. Finds of inscribed artifacts across regional centers highlight a concerted effort to uphold customary administrative systems and legal codes, sometimes modified for smaller dominions and more limited resources. The tenacity of Elamite writing was only possible through continuous transmission via schools and educational institutions, even when their scale and sophistication fell far below imperial norms. Modest instruction facilities still emerged, offering basic literacy and administrative training for new generations. These small but vital seats of learning kept alive intellectual traditions and cultural memory through the darkest chapters of political fragmentation. As the period advanced, local leaders responded to new realities by forging adapted governance structures. Archaeological remains from the 9th and 8th centuries BC document new bureaucratic buildings and the rise of regional domains, blending legacy Elamite administration with locally calibrated innovation. These emergent states cultivated diplomatic ties with neighboring powers, mirroring their diminished authority but staunchly retaining claims to Elamite political inheritance and identity. Construction and trade revived in some districts, as seen in renewed activity and market flow, suggesting patches of economic recovery and stabilizing rule. Nonetheless, these efforts never matched the ambition or sophistication of the imperial age, instead signaling fundamental changes. with Elam reduced to smaller, often struggling entities vying for stability in a competitive landscape. By the 8th century BC, slow stabilization across former Elamite lands opened the door for ambitious rulers to pursue a measure of centralized power, though always on a far more modest scale than the grand precedent set by the Shutrukid dynasty. In Susa, renewed building activity around 770 BC signaled the beginnings of urban resurrection as decimated districts and administrative seats saw restoration. Such projects, while technically simplified and reliant on humble mud brick construction, underscored the resources and organizational skills still available for substantial civic renewal. Susa's resurgence exemplified the gradual reformation of urban centers throughout the region. This evolution culminated in the birth of the so-called Neo-Elamite kingdoms, a defining transformation in Elam's political and cultural history. These new governance frameworks admitted their reduced territorial reach and altered circumstances, but worked to conserve the most essential Elamite values: reverence for tradition, continuity of spiritual practice, and the enduring power of identity. Despite centuries of conflict, collapse, environmental pressure, and shifting populations, Elamite society adapted and survived, transformed by necessity, but firm in its commitment to preserving the core of its ancient world. Neo-Elamite monarchs, informed by centuries of turmoil and shifting fortunes, abandoned attempts to reconstitute a sprawling empire reminiscent of their ancestors' conquests. Instead, their ambitions narrowed to firm control over the essential heartlands capable of offering reliable resources for maintaining their courts, professional armies, and well-functioning bureaucracies, all within contained territory that could realistically be administered and defended. The resurrection of Susa as a political core required major investments, rebuilding shattered infrastructure and reviving institutions lost to decades of decline. Current excavations chronicle the rise of new palatial structures that blended signature Elamite design features with practical enhancements for modern security and locally available materials. These complexes, though much reduced in scale compared to imperial predecessors, were carefully arranged with multiple courtyards bordered by reception halls, administrative offices, and living quarters. Their construction responded to practical lessons learned from the violence and instability of previous centuries. Reestablishing Susa's governmental apparatus involved drawing talent from across the revitalized land. Skilled workers, scribes, and functionaries were recruited and retrained, and educational centers reopened offering instruction in Middle Elamite, writing as well as Akkadian cuneiform. These efforts responded to the reality of governing populations with multiple languages, and were also essential for reconnecting with Mesopotamian trade and diplomacy. Much energy went into refounding scribal schools, which not only maintained traditions of writing, but also equipped a generation of administrators, jurists, and accountants for new governance challenges. Such institutions reflected the heavy investment in human resources and institutional knowledge needed for effective rule and eventual expansion. Meanwhile, regional power centers shaped by earlier fragmentation persisted, reflecting the landscape's old divisions between lowland farmers and highland pastoralists. The southern provinces remained under the sway of enduring local dynasties, rulers who recognized the symbolic dominance of Susa's kings, but maintained substantial autonomy in managing internal affairs. At highland sites like Malian, new construction activity is evident: fortifications, bureaucratic buildings, and taxation centers, reinforcing local strength while ensuring a degree of connection to the new state. Elamite leaders continually negotiated the tension between disparate lowland and highland interests. The mountain tribes depended on shepherding and control of trans-plateau trade, while a more settled rural population required irrigation and protection from raids. These economic and cultural differences forced the central administration into nimble diplomacy and ongoing debate over the fair allocation of resources and responsibilities. Tribal confederations thus occupied an increasingly central role, as traditional bureaucratic models proved insufficient for ruling groups accustomed to autonomy. New consultative mechanisms arose. Meeting halls and ceremonial centers brought regional chiefs together with royal representatives to hammer out policies and coordinate efforts. These assemblies balanced royal authority with local voice, often serving as venues for debate, dispute resolution, and critical decision-making. Integration of tribal groups demanded delicate negotiation. Many leaders retained military and fiscal control over their people, but accepted the king's primacy in foreign affairs and major legal judgments. Fortified compounds, half castle, half government office, stand in borderlands, evidence of real cooperation between royal administrators and tribal chieftains, needed to maintain security and keep lines of communication open. During this period, Elam's military organization shifted decisively from ambitions of conquest to rigorous defense. Rulers channeled resources into building layered fortifications tailored for endurance and adaptation. Strategic arrangements included multi-tiered walls, watchtowers, hidden water stores, and food caches, designed to withstand siege and hold out against sophisticated attackers. Weapons evolved along with new threats. Ironwork, which had become ancient Near East standard, now dominated Elamite arsenals, although ceremonial and specialized bronze craftsmanship persisted for tradition's sake. Archaeological records reveal iron swords, lances, and arrows made with advanced metallurgy, alongside ornate bronze vessels and display weapons bearing distinctly Elamite designs. This blend of practicality and cultural pride illustrates a willingness to accept foreign innovations while retaining traditional artistry. It was a careful balance, adapting to survive without sacrificing treasured identity. The greatest external peril Neo-Elamite rulers faced came from the expanding Neo-Assyrian Empire, whose powerful military and advanced siege tactics threatened Elamite independence more seriously than ever before. Along the frontier, extensive defensive work sprang up in the form of layered defensive lines designed to channel attackers into prepared ambush zones and safeguard vital roads and agricultural lands. Shutruk-Nar-Hunter II, ruling in the mid-7th century BC, earned a reputation for his skillful defense of Elam against relentless Assyrian pressure. His endeavors included the creation of new arms workshops and drill fields where forces were trained in rapid, coordinated maneuvers optimized for local terrain. Rather than seeking pitched battles, Elamite commanders favored tactics exploiting geographic advantages, mountain warfare, hit-and-run raids, and strategic mobility, leveraging deep knowledge of their familiar wilderness. His campaigns blended military intelligence and shrewd diplomacy, offering support to foes of Assyria and stitching together regional alliances to keep the imperial threat in check. Elamite bases established in disputed borderlands were engineered for stealth and defense, underground supply depots, hidden passageways for communication, and secure rallying points for redeployment. These military strategies embodied the new Elamite reality, resilient, adaptive, fiercely determined to preserve autonomy with unconventional tactics that offset numerical and technological inferiority. Elam had become a realm of survivors, learning from past catastrophe and embracing flexible, layered systems of governance and defense. Its rulers understood that old dreams of empire were gone, and survival now required a mixture of tradition and innovation, consultation and vigilance. Through these adjustments, Neo-Elamite society preserved much of its ancient heritage, shaping a legacy that would endure through turbulent times and leave its mark on history's unfolding story. Archaeological surveys from the period reveal how Neo-Elamite defenders made strategic use of the landscape. Enemy forces were lured into carefully prepared killing grounds, where ambushes at mountain passes and valleys could devastate advancing Assyrian units. Caches of weaponry and supplies, concealed in remote caves and rugged terrain, enabled Elamite guerrilla fighters to wage disruptive campaigns that hit supply lines and communications, preventing the invaders from fully consolidating their conquests. Such unconventional warfare depended on deep local knowledge and rigorous organization, connecting regular soldiers with agile tribal auxiliaries. These networks leveraged kinship, geography, and experience, resulting in sophisticated coordination and persistent disruption for the much larger and technologically advanced Assyrian army. Diplomatic initiatives during the reign of Shutruk-Nar-Hunti II involved highly nuanced communications with Babylonian rulers, who shared Elamite anxieties over Assyrian expansion but pursued their own ambitions in contested borderlands. Archaeological traces, gift exchanges, correspondence protocols, and embassies indicate that leaders from both states collaborated selectively, sharing intelligence and aligning tactics when sensible, all while limiting overt commitments to avoid provoking Assyrian preemptive strikes. Elamite diplomats demonstrated keen understanding of international maneuvering, balancing self-preservation with pragmatic cooperation that enhanced their positions without entangling them in costly obligations. This delicate dance kept open the possibility for joint resistance while protecting the hard-won autonomy of each state. Later in the 7th century BC, rulers such as Halutash and Shushinak attempted to exploit Assyria's internal conflict, rebuilding Elam's military strength and recapturing lost territory. Inscriptions and excavation sites from his reign document ongoing fortification projects, new administrative hubs in recovered lands, and coordinated preparation for renewed hostilities. The repeated cycle of consolidation and resistance reveals a government acutely aware of its defensive priorities, actively drawing lessons from previous failures. Halutash and Shushinak revised military organization to emphasize flexible defense and dynamic alliances, spreading defensive networks that bridged provincial centers and strategic strongholds. Signal towers atop mountains served for rapid warning, and relay stations ensured messengers could navigate dangerous landscapes securely, while linking outposts and administrative centers with robust communications. Elamite commanders retained agility and local responsiveness in their defense plans. Administratively, Halutash and Shushinak's reforms sought a workable balance between necessary central power and the independent spirit of regional overseers, negotiating authority through new provincial seats that fused time-honored governance with innovations from neighboring states. Record-keeping and judicial practice were standardized to maintain cohesion, yet customs and established leaderships were respected to keep restive regions engaged and loyal. The economic program launched at this time reflected the dual challenges of military pressure and opportunity arising from renewed stability. Restoration of artisanal workshops, textiles, ceramics, metalwork promoted regional employment and export, supporting courtly and urban revival while demonstrating successful recruitment of skilled workers from across the land. Archaeological finds show increased flow of foreign goods and luxury items, pointing to revitalized trade with Iranian plateau communities and renewed contact with Mesopotamian cities, both elements crucial for royal finances and popular prosperity. Culturally and religiously, Neo-Elamite society blended deep traditions with new influences to reinforce unity and legitimacy. Shushinak remained a dominant spiritual figure. Excavations document major investments in temple reconstruction and expansion, with new sanctuaries rising beside restored ones. Building programs incorporated older motifs while embracing new materials and architectural tricks from Mesopotamia and Iran, resulting in hybrid designs that signaled both pride and openness. Ritual life likewise evolved, adapting ceremonial practices and festival formats to accommodate larger groups and more elaborate performances, both to express spiritual conviction and to reinforce the bonds that joined ruler, clergy, and subjects. Religious festivals doubled as political theatre, cementing alliances and asserting royal presence at moments when visible strength was vital. Craftsmen continued to produce distinctive ceramics, metalwork, and sculpted items, each bearing classic Elamite patterns now brightened with styles and technologies borrowed from neighbors and rivals. The presence of imported pigments, new aloe recipes, and cross-cultural ornamentation hints at both prosperity and vibrant exchange in the creative sphere. The artistic traditions themselves stood as quiet testimony to resilience, continuity, and the persistent need for shared symbols, even as external pressures forced adaptation. On the architectural front, Neo-Elamite projects prioritized both defense and ceremony, maintaining practical structures for warfare while imbuing new buildings with symbolic gravitas. Fortifications merged trusted Elamite engineering with recently acquired construction techniques, resulting in formidable lines of defense, walls, towers, moats, and hidden tunnels, all purpose-built to delay or confound advanced siege weaponry. As the long confrontation with the Neo-Assyrian Empire escalated through the mid-8th century BC, the political narrative reached its dramatic closing act. Assyrian kings, frustrated by Elamite interference in Mesopotamian politics, escalated incursions and besieged border cities with a relentless, calculated fury. Despite formidable resistance, Assyrian armies pressed ever deeper, leveraging their manpower, ironclad soldiers, and technological acumen. Each defeat and victory bore witness to the determination and ingenuity of the Elamite state, its legacy carved not just in monuments and texts, but in the scars and stories of a civilization determined to endure against impossible odds. When Tiglath-Pileser III ascended the Assyrian throne in 745 BC, the entire landscape of Near Eastern warfare shifted dramatically. His far-reaching reforms propelled Assyria to unmatched military dominance. Professional soldiers equipped with standardized iron weapons, advanced siege technology, and a bureaucracy capable of orchestrating campaigns across continents. Archaeologists have uncovered sprawling military complexes, training fields, weapons foundries, supply depots, all meticulously laid out to facilitate long-term operations in even the harshest mountain regions of Elam. No longer did Assyria rely on seasonal levies. Armies became year-round professional forces drilled to uniform standards. Excavation reports describe weapon workshops assembling swords, armor, and siege engines by division of labor, turning out equipment of consistent quality and proven battlefield effectiveness. The sheer scale and precision of Assyrian logistics reshaped the conduct of war in the ancient world. With these reforms, Assyria's martial machine outmatched traditional armies on every front, including the Elamites, who still fielded contingents based on older models of command and technology. Iron weaponry offered advantages in strength and sharpness. New armor designs balanced protection and mobility, and siege innovations rendered old stone ramparts increasingly obsolete. From the remains of Assyrian siege camps, scholars can reconstruct battering rams with mechanical amplifiers, wheeled towers for archers and engineers, and complex tunneling equipment, all used to breach, undermine, or overwhelm entrenched defenders. Assyrian tactical doctrine further amplified these advantages. Coordinated assaults concentrated overwhelming force on a fortress's weak points, deploying projectiles, rams, and elite troops in deliberate sequence. The defenders' margin for error narrowed to nothing. Skilled engineering and disciplined battle formations allowed attackers to exploit any gap or faltering response. Elsewhere along campaign routes, remnants of supply bases and relay posts confirm the importance of well-planned logistics, including road construction projects that slashed travel times between theaters. With such infrastructure, Assyrian armies maintained pressure in multiple directions, making withdrawal or regrouping a rare luxury for their foes. Elamite responses to this relentless onslaught, at least initially, focused on maximizing defensive advantages. In mountainous strongholds and border fortresses, Elamite engineers built layered defensive lines, walls with concealed gates and killing zones, moats and fields of obstacles to funnel advances into predictable paths. Water stores and hidden passageways allowed defenders to outlast regular sieges, turning natural terrain and local knowledge into formidable assets. These investments in defense, often requiring months or years of labor and careful coordination, show that Elam's rulers retained a remarkable degree of central authority despite the constant threat. Archaeological excavation reveals tunnels, granaries, and armories stuffed with provisions, prepared for endurance warfare in the face of overwhelming odds. On the battlefield, Elamite commanders emphasized mobility and harassment, relying on agile detachments and tribal auxiliaries adept at mountain fighting. Weapons caches spread throughout the hills ensured supplies for hit-and-run attacks against Assyrian supply trains and outposts. Such guerrilla tactics demanded advanced coordination and trust between regular army units and their local allies, a dynamic that sometimes outweighed the importance of brute force. Diplomatically, Elam's leaders moved with equal caution and acumen. They negotiated carefully with Babylonian dynasties, whose own nerves were frayed by Assyrian expansion. Exchanges of gifts and subtle communications cemented cooperation without risking outright alliance, always mindful to avoid triggering preemptive action from Assyria. These arrangements enabled practical joint military efforts against common adversaries but preserved each state's independence and freedom of maneuver. When Babylonian uprisings erupted, Elam served as a critical lifeline, offering support, coordination, and at times direct intervention. Archaeological findings from campaign bases highlight command centers, supply depots, and evidence of multi-ethnic cooperation, charting the moment-to-moment realities of coalition warfare. Under Chutruk-Nahanti and other Neo-Elamite monarchs, resistance to Assyria escalated above mere defense. Ruins from this era document extensive weapons manufacturing and drill centers where new recruits were trained for contemporary battle. Archival and material remains reveal planning and investment that sometimes rivaled the logistical prowess of their foes. Elamite forces experimented with integrated formations, infantry, cavalry, and their own engineered siege equipment maneuvered together in field operations, testing new approaches and creating hybrid tactics designed to exploit terrain and surprise foes, even with inferior numbers and technology. Although hampered by limited resources and the lingering effects of prior fragmentation, these adaptations proved Elamite willingness to learn and innovate in the face of existential threat. In every facet of military and political life, from mountain ambushes and coalition diplomacy to the reconstruction of civic institutions, Neo-Elamite society was defined by resilience, ingenuity, and a relentless search for survival strategies. Even as Assyrian armies pressed ever deeper, the story of Elam in the late 8th and 7th centuries BC stands as a testament to the ancient world's complexity, a tale of old knowledge contested by new machines, where every possible edge was turned to the defense of a land whose identity was forged in adversity. Neo-Elamite military campaigns of the late 8th and 7th centuries BC demanded unprecedented levels of logistical sophistication and resource allocation. In hostile and distant lands, survival depended on hidden supply caches, stashed weapons, food, and gear in caves and forests, staging areas and covert depots that sustained guerrilla fighters and kept field armies connected to their homeland. These achievements speak to innovations in organizational technique, planning, and adaptability rarely rivaled elsewhere in the ancient world. Yet it was the accession of Sargon II in 722 BC that heralded the most relentless phase of Assyrian aggression. Sargon's strategy was clear: eradicate Elamite influence in Mesopotamia, seize control of vital trade arteries and resource zones, and project Assyrian power deep into mountainous terrain. Archaeologists document immense logistical undertakings, new camps, foundries, and the introduction of specialized siege weapons engineered specifically for Elam's rugged environment. Tactics evolved in response. Sargon's army employed synchronized assaults, threatening numerous Elamite fortresses simultaneously. In place of slow sieges alone, Assyrian commanders deployed swiftly moving units and engineered new flexible battle formations, making concentration and defense ever more difficult for their adversaries. These complex operations required advanced communications and an ability to coordinate scattered regiments across formidable terrain, a feat achieved through relay stations, signal networks, and the discipline of professional soldiers. The Elamites responded with multi-layered defense. They reinforced fortress walls, built hidden passageways for communication, and protected critical supply chains even under fire. New defensive layouts absorbed Assyrian shocks, preserved resistance in vital strongholds, and allowed for targeted counterattacks in areas where local knowledge and mountain warfare tactics gave defenders an edge. Every stone laid was an assertion of independence and a challenge to imperial power. Momentary hope came at Sargon's death in 705 BC. As succession crises gripped Assyrian leadership, Elamite monarchs seized the respite, consolidating control, rebuilding broken infrastructures, and restoring shattered garrisons. Construction soared, administration revived, and regional independence flickered anew as rulers exploited every opportunity to shore up their battered but tenacious networks. But Sennacherib's rise brought a relentless new wave of military innovation. His armies honed their siegecraft and tactics, still further blending technical advances with fierce concentration of firepower. Archaeological findings from battlefields and destroyed settlements reveal new weapon systems, composite bows, tiered shield walls, advanced siege towers, and a professional approach to combat efficiency, tactical adaptation, and logistics. During this period, the Babylonian rebellion under Merodach-Baladan stunned the empire, as Elamite support flowed in the form of weapons, soldiers, and tactical expertise. For a time it seemed possible that coalition warfare might break Assyrian dominance. Yet, archaeological evidence from sites devastated after the rebellion attests to the overwhelming power and systematic vengeance of Assyrian response, burned cities, obliterated archives, and ruthless penalties for even the hint of ongoing resistance. Under Esarhaddon, aggressive policies continued. The focus shifted to eliminating lingering opposition, consolidating the empire's hold, and isolating Elam from allies, both diplomatically and through calculated division of leadership inside its fragmented territories. Excavations reveal shifting alliances, diplomatic isolation, and the slow suffocation of Elamite capacity to resist. With Ashurbanipal's accession in 668 BC, Assyria unleashed the full force of its war machine in one last devastating series of campaigns. Everything that had been learned was applied: integrated logistics, specialized armaments, carefully placed bases, and parallel assaults on key defensive nodes. The campaign of 653 BC, in particular, saw coordinated attacks across the entire Elamite frontier, with relentless pressure exerted on fortresses, supply lines, and urban centers. Cities burned, walls were breached, and the infrastructure of resistance was methodically erased. Susa, symbolic heart of Elamite civilization, became ground zero for the final disaster. Dig sites show layers of violence: scorched earth, collapsed structures, abandoned hoards of treasures, skeletal remains among piles of shattered armaments, a desperate last stand followed by systematic annihilation. Assyrian looting after victory was strategic, targeting more than just wealth. Statues of kings, idols of gods, written records, and ceremonial objects were all removed or destroyed. Every fragment carried a meaning, every archive the key to lost memory. The purpose was clear: empires could not rise again if their past symbols and knowledge were obliterated. In these final chapters, the battle was fought as much over history as territory. The calculated destruction of Elam's political and spiritual identity signals the end, not only of independence, but of a civilization's voice within the broader landscape of the ancient Near East. Elam's legacy, fractured but not wholly erased, would persist in the traditions, art, and collective memory of successor peoples. Yet the kingdom's fall to Assyria stands as one of history's most complete victories by force, logistics, and deliberate strategy, a cautionary tale about the fragility and dynamism of ancient civilizations. This cultural annihilation constituted a calculated campaign to eradicate Elamite identity's very foundations, preventing any future attempts at political restoration. Ashurbanipal's expeditions transcended mere military triumph, systematically dismantling religious centers while deporting skilled artisans, spiritual leaders, and governmental officials who possessed essential knowledge for preserving traditional institutions and cultural practices. Archaeological investigations at sacred locations exposed deliberate temple complex devastation and removal of ritual artifacts serving as focal points for religious ceremonies and cultural unity. These actions reveal sophisticated comprehension of political resistance's cultural underpinnings and methodical efforts, eliminating institutional foundations for future Elamite political organization. The dispersal of Elamite populations throughout the Iranian plateau, following Ashurbanipal's conquests, represented the ultimate phase in eliminating Elamite political autonomy as traditional social frameworks and territorial connections underwent systematic disruption through enforced relocations and administrative restructuring. Archaeological discoveries document major urban center abandonment and establishment of fresh settlement configurations, reflecting Assyrian administrative demands rather than traditional Elamite social and economic organization. Deportation strategies implemented during this era involved systematic removal of skilled individuals and community leaders who might have provided resistance focal points or attempts restoring traditional political structures. Archaeological findings reveal craft specialist and religious personnel dispersal across distant territories, fragmenting knowledge and expertise concentrations that has supported Elamite cultural achievements while preventing new political organization center emergence. Independent Elamite political authority's final collapse around 646 BC marked the conclusion of nearly 3 millennia of continuous political evolution and cultural accomplishment, as organized resistance's last remnants were eliminated through systematic military expeditions and administrative policies designed preventing future Elamite political aspiration revival. Archaeological documentation from this period reveals complete traditional settlement pattern transformation and institutional abandonment that had maintained Elamite cultural identity and political organization for generations. The devastating thoroughness of this destruction created echoes that would resonate across centuries as communities struggled to maintain connections to their ancestral heritage amid forced displacement and cultural suppression. Elamite political independence's destruction generated a power vacuum in southwestern Iran, eventually filled by new political formations, though none achieved the cultural sophistication or territorial extent characterizing Elamite civilization at its zenith. Archaeological evidence reveals gradual emergence of fresh settlement patterns and political structures, incorporating some Elamite traditional elements while adapting to changed circumstances and foreign political control requirements. Yet from this devastation emerged unexpected opportunity. Cyrus the Great's emergence as southwestern Iran's dominant power around 550 BC fundamentally transformed the political landscape that had witnessed independent Elamite kingdom destruction barely a century earlier. Unlike devastating Assyrian campaigns seeking Elamite political identity elimination through systematic destruction and population dispersal, Cyrus pursued cultural accommodation and administrative integration policies, preserving many traditional Elamite institutions, while incorporating them into the expanding Persian Empire. Archaeological discoveries from Susa reveal immediate material culture changes following Persian conquest, featuring new architectural styles, ceramic traditions, and administrative practices reflecting Achaemenid imperial administration's cosmopolitan character. This transformation marked not destruction but renaissance, a rebirth of urban sophistication under new imperial patronage. Elam's Persian conquest occurred not through single decisive campaigns, but rather through negotiation series and limited military operations, exploiting political fragmentation characterizing the region since Assyrian destructions. Local rulers maintaining precarious independence in highland valleys and lowland enclaves found themselves unable resisting systematic Persian authority expansion. Yet Cyrus demonstrated remarkable diplomatic expertise, transforming potential adversaries into willing collaborators through generous terms and traditional authority structure respect. Archaeological surveys across former Elamite territories reveal minimal destruction levels associated with Persian takeover, indicating most transitions occurred through negotiated settlements rather than violent conquest. Cyrus's administrative policies toward conquered Elamite territories reflected sophisticated understanding of practical governing requirements for populations with distinct cultural traditions and established political expectations. Rather than imposing uniform Persian administrative structures, early Achaemenid rulers adopted flexible approaches, preserving local institutions while ensuring ultimate Persian authority through carefully positioned officials and strategic military installations. Archaeological excavations at administrative centers reveal new government building construction combining Persian architectural elements with traditional Elamite design features, creating distinctive hybrid styles symbolizing different cultural tradition integration within imperial frameworks. These architectural innovations represented more than aesthetic choices. They embodied political philosophy, recognizing diversity as imperial strength rather than weakness. Susiana satrapy establishment represented crucial innovation in Achaemenid administrative practice, as this territorial unit encompassed former Elamite political authorities' core regions, while acknowledging their distinct cultural identity and administrative requirements. The satrap appointed governing Susiana exercised authority over territories extending from Zagros foothills to Persian Gulf, encompassing fertile agricultural plains, supporting Elamite civilization for millennia, alongside highland regions controlling mineral resource access and trade routes, connecting Iranian plateau with Mesopotamian markets. Archaeological evidence reveals earliest Susiana satraps were often drawn from Persian noble families with royal court connections, yet they relied heavily on Elamite administrative personnel, possessing essential local condition knowledge, legal traditions, and economic systems. This practical collaboration created administrative synthesis combining imperial efficiency with local expertise. Administrative archives from this period display continued Middle Elamite script usage, alongside Old Persian and Aramaic for official documents, indicating practical linguistic diversity recognition and communication maintenance importance, with populations retaining traditional languages and cultural practices. This multilingual approach facilitated governance while respecting cultural heritage. Elamite administrative tradition integration into Achaemenid imperial practice created important precedents for governing other conquered territories with established political institutions and cultural identities. The Persian approach, preserving useful local practices while ensuring imperial control through strategic oversight, became a Achaemenid administration hallmark, enabling empire governance of diverse populations across vast geographical areas without massive military commitments required for direct rule through imposed administrative structures. Susa's transformation into one of the Persian Empire's primary capitals represented perhaps the most dramatic change in the city's extensive history, evolving from regional administrative center into cosmopolitan imperial metropolis, attracting populations from across the known world. Archaeological excavations reveal extensive construction programs initiated during Darius I's reign, featuring massive palace complexes rivaling royal residences at Persepolis and Ecbatana in architectural magnificence and symbolic importance. This remarkable transformation demonstrated the Achaemenid genius for cultural synthesis and administrative innovation. Rather than erasing the past, Persian rule created frameworks allowing ancient traditions to flourish within imperial contexts, ensuring that while political independence had ended, cultural continuity could persist and even thrive under enlightened imperial patronage. The story of Elam's final chapter thus becomes not merely one of conquest and defeat, but of remarkable adaptation, cultural resilience, and the complex dynamics through which empires both destroy and preserve the civilizations they absorb. These monumental construction endeavors utilize skilled artisans and premium materials sourced throughout the empire, generating architectural schemes that merged Persian imperial concepts with indigenous Elamite customs and influences from Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and Greek artistic origins. The convergence of diverse traditions created something entirely unprecedented, a truly cosmopolitan architectural language that spoke to the empire's multicultural identity. The magnificent palace compound erected at Susa during the early Achaemenid era covered roughly 15 hectares, containing numerous courtyards encircled by audience chambers, living areas, governmental offices, and ritual spaces accommodating imperial administration's intricate demands and royal ceremonial functions. This vast complex represented more than mere royal residence. It embodied the administrative heart of a global empire. Archaeological examination exposes sophisticated building methods, incorporating wisdom from previous Persian construction ventures, while adjusting to local environmental factors and accessible resources. Palace foundations utilized enormous stone blocks transported from remote quarries, while superstructures employed fired brick and timber frameworks, providing both structural integrity and visual magnificence. The ornamental schemes executed within Susa's palace compound demonstrate Achaemenid imperial culture's cosmopolitan nature and purposeful artistic tradition integration throughout the empire. Archaeological findings feature glazed brick artwork depicting Persian royal guards, Elamite tribute carriers, and various subject populations wearing distinctive garments while bearing characteristic homeland products. These artistic depictions fulfilled both aesthetic and political purposes, generating visually spectacular imperial power displays, while recognizing cultural variety, characterizing the Achaemenid Empire, and different peoples' contributions to imperial wealth and strength. Each figure carved or molded into these walls told a story of integration rather than domination. Glazed brick production technical sophistication at Susa demanded advanced ceramic expertise and specialized workshop installations, employing craftsmen trained in methods developed across the ancient Near East. Archaeological analysis exposes complex firing techniques, achieving uniform pigments and surface characteristics across thousands of individual bricks, while assembling these components into unified artistic schemes required meticulous planning and precise implementation, proving remarkable organizational abilities and creative vision. Susa Palace complex administrative operations featured archives preserving imperial governance records, tribute-gathering documentation, and diplomatic exchanges offering essential insights into Achaemenid governmental practices and former Elamite territories function within broader imperial frameworks. Archaeological discoveries of cuneiform documents written in Elamite, Old Persian, and Aramaic reveal imperial administration's multilingual character and practical significance, maintaining communication capabilities across different languages serving diverse population needs and administrative demands. Elamite language preservation in official imperial contexts represented significant departure from earlier imperial practices, typically imposing conquerors' languages and administrative procedures on subject populations. Middle Elamite scripts continued usage in royal proclamations, administrative records indicates not merely practical accommodation to local conditions, but active recognition of Elamite cultural contributions to imperial governance and preserving institutional knowledge and practices proven effective across centuries of political evolution. Royal inscriptions commissioned during Achaemenid periods often appeared in trilingual editions including Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian Akkadian, reflecting empire multicultural character and practical requirements communicating imperial policies to diverse populations with different linguistic customs. Elamite versions of these proclamations employed traditional formulaic vocabulary and religious references, maintaining continuity with earlier Elamite royal traditions while adapting to fresh political circumstances and imperial ideological demands. The Behistun inscription carved on western Iran's cliff face during Darius I's reign provides perhaps the most renowned example of trilingual royal propaganda utilizing Elamite alongside Old Persian and Babylonian to communicate imperial authority and political legitimacy to different audience segments. This inscription's Elamite version demonstrates sophisticated literary abilities and cultural expertise requiring trained scribe services who maintain traditional educational practices and intellectual customs despite fundamental political transformations affecting their society. Archaeological discoveries reveal continued educational institution operations teaching Elamite language and administrative procedures alongside Persian and Aramaic language training, becoming essential for imperial service advancement. These academies produced bilingual and trilingual administrative staff, managing complex bureaucratic mechanisms governing Susiana satrapy, while maintaining correspondence with central imperial authorities and local populations retaining traditional languages and cultural practices. Susa's ceremonial function within Achaemenid imperial frameworks extended beyond administrative duties, encompassing significant symbolic and religious activities, reinforcing imperial unity while acknowledging regional diversity and cultural customs. Archaeological findings reveal ceremonial space construction designed accommodating large imperial official assemblies, foreign ambassadors, and regional delegates gathering for important state events and religious celebrations, demonstrating imperial strength while providing diplomatic communication and cultural exchange opportunities. Nowruz festivities conducted at Susa. Each spring assembled representatives throughout the empire participating in elaborate ceremonies, combining Persian royal traditions with local customs and religious observances derived from various cultural sources. Archaeological discoveries include ceremonial artifacts and architectural elements designed specifically for these celebrations, elevated platforms for royal appearances, specialized storage installations for ceremonial equipment, and residential areas for visiting dignitaries remaining at court during major festivals. Elamite religious tradition integration into Achaemenid imperial practice created syncretic ceremonial formats preserving essential traditional Elamite worship elements, while adapting to Persian royal ideology and Zoroastrian religious influences. Archaeological findings from temple locations reveal continued traditional Elamite deity worship alongside Persian religious practices, with some temples serving dual purposes, accommodating both traditional local worship and imperial ceremonial requirements. Ahura Mazda worship, Persian Zoroastrianism's supreme deity, was promoted throughout Susiana satrapy through fire temple construction and priestly hierarchy establishment, maintaining Zoroastrian religious practices while accommodating local religious traditions and customs. Archaeological excavations have revealed fire altars and ceremonial installations demonstrating systematic Persian religious practice, promotion without complete traditional Elamite religious observance suppression, continuing in modified forms throughout the Achaemenid period. Cultural synthesis produced distinctive artistic styles and intellectual traditions combining Elamite, Persian, and Mesopotamian elements in innovative approaches reflecting imperial society's cosmopolitan character. Archaeological collections from this era include ceramic containers, metalwork, and sculpted artifacts demonstrating sophisticated artistic fusion and technical innovation, drawing upon multiple cultural sources while creating fresh forms adapted to contemporary aesthetic preferences and functional demands. The remarkable transformation of Susa from destroyed provincial center to thriving imperial capital demonstrates the Achaemenid genius for cultural integration and administrative innovation, Rather than simply imposing Persian culture, the empire created frameworks allowing diverse traditions to contribute to a richer, more complex imperial identity that honored the past while embracing the future. This synthesis represented perhaps the ancient world's most successful example of multicultural imperial administration, creating precedents for governance that would influence subsequent empires while ensuring that Elamite cultural contributions would survive and flourish within new political contexts for generations to come. Fresh textile customs emerging during the Achaemenid era blended weaving methods and ornamental designs from throughout the empire, while preserving unique regional traits that maintain traditional Elamite artistic identity elements. Archaeological findings feature fabric remnants and loom apparatus proving advanced manufacturing procedures and access to premium raw materials from remote locations, demonstrating extensive commercial networks linking Susiana with markets and production hubs across the civilized world. These discoveries reveal how cultural exchange enriched rather than diminished local traditions. Elamite weavers adapted foreign techniques, while maintaining their ancestral patterns, creating hybrid textiles that spoke to both imperial cosmopolitanism and regional pride. The sophistication of these works suggests thriving workshops where master craftsmen trained apprentices in both time-honored methods and innovative approaches gleaned from distant lands. Metalworking during the Achaemenid period reached unprecedented sophistication through combining traditional Elamite methods with Persian innovations and access to enhanced raw materials and manufacturing technologies. Archaeological examination exposes elaborate container, weapon, and ceremonial artifact production, employing intricate alloy mixtures and refined manufacturing procedures, creating exceptional quality and artistic merit objects. These metalwork accomplishments demanded specialized expertise and advanced workshop infrastructure, employing artisans trained in methods derived from multiple cultural traditions. The fusion of techniques produced objects that were simultaneously distinctly Elamite in their decorative sensibility and thoroughly imperial in their technical execution, a perfect metaphor for the cultural synthesis occurring throughout the satrapy. Architectural innovations developed during the Achaemenid period at Susa influenced construction ventures throughout the empire, establishing fresh benchmarks for royal palace design and urban planning. Persian imperial architectural concepts integrated with traditional Elamite building methods created distinctive styles, adapted for other imperial capitals and administrative centers, proving Elamite architectural knowledge's significant contributions to broader imperial cultural advancement. The palace at Susa became a template copied across the empire, its hybrid design philosophy influencing construction from Persepolis to Babylon. Elamite architects and engineers found their expertise in demand throughout the imperial territories, spreading their knowledge while adapting to new challenges and environments. Economic integration within Achaemenid imperial frameworks provided fresh opportunities for Elamite agricultural and craft manufacturing, while creating challenges requiring adaptation to imperial taxation systems and commercial regulations. Archaeological findings reveal enhanced agricultural productivity through improved irrigation systems and introduction of novel crops and farming methods, increasing traditional Elamite agricultural region economic value, while supporting larger urban populations and more extensive craft production activities. The Susiana satrapy tribute obligations required systematic agricultural production, craft output, and commercial activity assessment, generating comprehensive economic condition and resource availability records. Archaeological discoveries of administrative collections expose sophisticated accounting procedures and taxation systems, balancing imperial revenue requirements with local economic capabilities and traditional production patterns sustaining Elamite society for centuries. Achaemenid period trade relationships connected Susiana with commercial networks, extending across the entire known world, providing access to luxury merchandise, raw materials, and manufactured products unavailable during earlier political isolation and military conflict periods. Archaeological evidence reveals goods importation from India, Central Asia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean world, while Elamite products found markets throughout the empire, contributing to Achaemenid period economic prosperity. Enhanced transportation infrastructure development during the Achaemenid era facilitated both administrative communication and commercial activities, integrating former Elamite territories more effectively into imperial economic systems. Royal road construction with standardized rest stations and communication installations reduced travel times while improving merchant and official traveler security. Canal construction programs enhanced agricultural productivity while providing improved bulk commodity transportation routes. A Happanid period legal and judicial systems combined. Persian imperial law with traditional Elamite legal practices and Mesopotamian legal precedents, creating comprehensive dispute resolution frameworks and maintaining social order across culturally diverse populations. Archaeological discoveries of legal documents reveal continued traditional Elamite legal terminology and procedure usage, alongside Persian and Aramaic legal practices, indicating sophisticated legal pluralism accommodating different cultural expectations while maintaining imperial authority and major legal matter consistency. Traditional Elamite legal practice preservation within imperial systems required judicial personnel training, understanding both local customs and imperial legal requirements, creating professional legal specialist classes, serving as cultural intermediaries between different legal traditions and administrative systems. Archaeological findings reveal legal training institution operations producing bilingual and multilingual legal professionals staffing courts and administrative tribunals throughout the satrapy, while maintaining communication with central imperial legal authorities. A Achaemenid period military organization incorporated Elamite military units into imperial armies, while preserving traditional military practices and organizational structures proven effective under local conditions. Archaeological discoveries reveal continued traditional Elamite weapon and military equipment production alongside Persian military innovations, indicating selective adaptation preserving useful local practices while ensuring imperial military standard and tactical requirement compatibility. Elamite military personnel recruitment for imperial army service provided advancement and cultural exchange opportunities, while contributing to imperial military capabilities through specialized knowledge and skills adapted to different geographical and tactical conditions. Archaeological findings include military equipment and installations, demonstrating Elamite military tradition integration into broader imperial military practices, while preserving distinctive regional characteristics and specialized capabilities. Achaemenid period population movements brought empire-wide settlers to former Elamite territories, while providing opportunities for Elamite populations relocating to other regions and participating in imperial colonization projects and administrative activities. Archaeological evidence reveals fresh settlement establishments, combining populations from different cultural backgrounds, while maintaining some cultural distinctiveness and traditional practices preserving regional identity elements within broader imperial systems. Alexander the Great's conquest in 331 BC dissolved the Achaemenid Empire, marking Elam's last period of political prominence conclusion. Yet cultural and administrative traditions developed over 3 millennia of Elamite civilization continued influencing successive empires controlling southwestern Iran. The Parthians, establishing Iranian plateau dominance around 247 BC, inherited administrative systems and cultural practices bearing unmistakable Elamite institutional knowledge traces, particularly their approach governing diverse populations and managing complex irrigation systems remaining essential for Khuzestan plain agricultural productivity. Parthian administrative documents discovered at Nisa and other locations reveal bureaucratic practice continuation traceable directly to Elamite precedents, standardized record-keeping procedures, taxation systems adapted to local agricultural cycles, and judicial frameworks accommodating different legal traditions within unified imperial structures. Parthian provincial administration approaches balancing central authority with local autonomy through appointed governors working closely with traditional leaders closely resembled flexible governance strategies, enabling Elamite rulers maintaining control over geographically diverse territories for centuries. Archaeological evidence from Parthian period sites in former Elamite territories reveals distinctive architectural tradition persistence, combining Hellenistic influences with building techniques and decorative motifs derived from Elamite sources. These continuities demonstrate how deeply Elamite cultural patterns had embedded themselves in regional consciousness, surviving political upheavals and cultural changes that might have erased less resilient traditions. The story of Elamite civilization thus transcends simple narratives of rise and fall. Instead, it reveals how cultural achievements, institutional wisdom, and adaptive strategies can persist across millennia, influencing successive generations and contributing to the complex tapestry of human civilization. From the earliest Proto-Elamite settlements to the grand palaces of Achaemenid Susa, from the military innovations of the Shutrakids to the administrative synthesis of Persian rule, Elamite civilization demonstrates humanity's remarkable capacity for innovation, adaptation, and cultural continuity in the face of constant change and challenge. The legacy endures not merely in archaeological remains, but in the ongoing influence of ideas, practices, and traditions that helped shape the ancient world and continue echoing through history's corridors, a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and resilience. The distinctive application of glazed brickwork and ornamental facades, the utilization of specific proportional relationships in palace and temple construction, and the incorporation of ceremonial spaces designed for massive public assemblies all prove continuities with earlier Elamite architectural practices preserved and transmitted through successive periods of foreign dominance. These architectural elements weren't merely decorative choices, but embodied deeper cultural values and spatial concepts that had evolved over millennia. The persistence of these design principles through political upheavals demonstrates how profoundly Elamite architectural philosophy had influenced regional building traditions, creating a visual language that transcended individual dynasties and political systems. The Sasanian dynasty, displacing Parthian authority around 224 AD, demonstrated even more explicit connections to Elamite cultural heritage through systematic revival of ancient Iranian traditions, and particular attention to symbolic importance of Ctesiphon and other locations in Mesopotamia and southwestern Iran. Sasanian royal proclamations frequently reference glorious achievements of ancient Iranian kingdoms, including specific mentions of Elamite rulers and their contributions to Iranian imperial tradition development that Sasanians claim to represent and continue. This conscious appropriation of Elamite legacy represented more than political propaganda. It reflected genuine recognition of Elamite civilization's foundational role in Iranian cultural development. Sasanian rulers understood that legitimacy required connection to ancient precedents, and Elamite achievements provided compelling examples of Iranian imperial greatness that predated Greek and Roman influence. Sasanian administrative practices incorporated numerous elements traceable to Elamite institutional innovations, particularly sophisticated systems for managing agricultural production and coordinating large-scale construction projects requiring diverse skilled craftsman mobilization and substantial material resource allocation. The Sasanian approach to religious tolerance and cultural accommodation, enabling governance of populations with different ethnic backgrounds and religious traditions, reflected administrative philosophies developed and refined during centuries of Elamite political experience. These governmental strategies proved their effectiveness across millennia, adapted by successive rulers who recognized their practical value for managing diverse populations across challenging geographical conditions. The flexibility and cultural sensitivity that characterized Sasanian administration had deep roots in Elamite precedents, demonstrating remarkable institutional continuity. Elamite cultural element preservation within Sasanian civilization extended beyond administrative practices to encompass artistic traditions, religious concepts, and intellectual frameworks continuing to influence Iranian cultural development long after independent Elam's disappearance. Archaeological analysis of Sasanian metalwork, textile production, and ceramic traditions reveals decorative motif persistence, manufacturing technique continuity, and aesthetic principle maintenance originating in Elamite workshops and transmitted through craftsmen generations, maintaining traditional knowledge despite changing political circumstances. These cultural transmissions occurred through guild systems, family workshops, and apprenticeship networks that preserved technical knowledge and artistic sensibilities across centuries. Master craftsmen taught not only techniques, but also designed philosophies and symbolic meanings that had evolved within Elamite cultural contexts, ensuring continuity of artistic expression even under foreign rule. Elamite linguistic element survival within later Persian dialects spoken in southwestern Iran provides additional evidence for cultural continuity, transcending political transformations and foreign conquests. Modern linguistic analysis has identified numerous words in contemporary Persian and regional dialects deriving from Elamite sources, particularly terms related to agricultural practices, irrigation technology, and local geographical features, reflecting deep historical connections between language and landscape in regions continuously inhabited for thousands of years. These linguistic survivals represent more than mere vocabulary retention. They embody conceptual frameworks and environmental knowledge systems developed over millennia of interaction with specific landscapes. Agricultural terminology, in particular, preserves ancient understanding of seasonal cycles, irrigation methods, and crop management techniques that remained relevant across historical periods. European scholars rediscovered Elamite civilization during the 19th century through archaeological exploration, linguistic analysis, and historical research, gradually revealing this long-forgotten ancient society's extent and sophistication. Initial Elamite site identification resulted from systematic Mesopotamian archaeological remain exploration, as scholars investigating Babylonian and Assyrian civilizations encountered Elamite kingdom references and began searching for physical evidence of their existence and achievements. This rediscovery process exemplified 19th century archaeological methodology, combining textual analysis with systematic excavation to reconstruct ancient civilizations. The excitement of uncovering entirely unknown civilizations drove intensive research efforts that transformed understanding of ancient Near Eastern complexity and cultural diversity. Pioneering excavations conducted at Susa by French archaeological missions beginning in the 1880s represented the first systematic attempt uncovering Elamite civilization material remains and understanding historical development through scientific archaeological methods. Mossel Dulafoy and successors employed stratigraphic excavation techniques, enabling identification of different occupation periods and reconstruction of chronological sequences of cultural and political developments, shaping the site over more than 4 millennia of continuous habitation. These methodological innovations established standards for archaeological investigation that influenced subsequent research throughout the ancient Near East. The systematic approach to excavation and documentation created comprehensive records that continue providing insights into Elamite civilization's complexity and achievements. Hammurabi's Code Stele discovery at Susa in 1901 provided dramatic confirmation of historical accounts describing Elamite military campaigns against Babylonian territories, while simultaneously demonstrating sophisticated cultural achievements of Elamite civilization through preservation and display of this important Mesopotamian monument. This famous legal document's presence at Susa, alongside numerous other Mesopotamian artifacts transported there as war trophies, revealed Elamite military success, extent, and their appreciation for cultural achievements transcending political boundaries. Archaeological investigations at Choga Zambil, the ceremonial complex constructed by Untashnaparisha during the 13th century BC, provided spectacular evidence of Elamite architectural and engineering capabilities previously unknown to modern scholarship. The massive ziggurat and surrounding temple complexes demonstrated planning levels, construction skill, and artistic sophistication, establishing Elamite civilization as major ancient Near Eastern cultural achievement, worthy of comparison with celebrated Mesopotamian and Egyptian monuments. Systematic 20th century Elamite site. Excavation employed increasingly sophisticated archaeological techniques, enabling researchers to reconstruct detailed pictures of Elamite social organization, economic systems, and cultural practices. Scientific dating method application, environmental analysis, and comparative studies with contemporary civilizations provided fresh insights into Elamite society development and interactions with neighboring cultures over extended historical change periods. Modern archaeological investigations have revealed Elamite settlement pattern and territorial organization complexity through extensive surveys identifying hundreds of sites associated with different Elamite political development periods. These surveys demonstrated that Elamite civilization encompassed not merely major urban centers like Susa and Anshan, but extensive smaller settlement networks supporting specialized economic activities and providing demographic and resource foundations for Elamite political and military achievements. Elamite script decipherment presented particular challenges due to unique Elamite language characteristics. and complex relationships to other ancient Iranian Plateau and Mesopotamian languages. Unlike Akkadian cuneiform deciphered through bilingual texts and known Semitic language relationships, Elamite remained isolated with no clear contemporary linguistic family connections, requiring innovative approaches to understanding grammatical structure and vocabulary. Elamite linguistic studies' breakthrough came through trilingual Achaemenid period, inscription analysis including Elamite versions alongside Old Persian and Babylonian texts, providing parallel texts enabling individual word and grammatical construction identification through known language comparison. The Behistun inscription and similar trilingual monuments provided crucial data establishing foundations for understanding Elamite linguistic structure and developing translation capabilities for monolingual Elamite texts. Elamite paleography development, ancient writing system study and temporal evolution, enabled scholars tracing Elamite script development from earliest Proto-Elamite origins through sophisticated Middle Elamite linear script, employed for royal inscriptions and administrative documents during Elamite political power heights. This paleographic analysis revealed innovative Elamite writing system character and important contributions to ancient Near Eastern writing technology development. Elamite text linguistic analysis has provided crucial insights into ancient language structure and vocabulary, revealing grammatical features and lexical elements contributing to broader understanding of linguistic development in the ancient Iranian world, ensuring that this remarkable civilization's voice continues resonating through scholarly research and cultural appreciation. Identifying Elamite loanwords in other ancient languages, especially Akkadian and Old Persian, has revealed a far greater degree of cultural exchange and Elamite influence than earlier scholarship acknowledged. Such linguistic interplay not only testifies to routine contact between societies, but also demonstrates the prestige and practical importance Elamite civilization exerted on its neighbors, impacting legal, administrative, agricultural, and technical vocabularies across the region. Contemporary scholars approach the study of Elamite civilization with interdisciplinary methods, blending archaeological excavation and textual interpretation with advanced scientific tools from geology, paleoclimatology, and the biological sciences. This comprehensive strategy reconstructs a multidimensional picture of ancient society, placing cultural achievements within their environmental context. Recent climate reconstructions and geoarchaeological studies have shed new light on how shifting rainfall patterns, river courses, soil fertility affected agricultural productivity, urban expansion, and political fortunes throughout Elam's history. Soil and plant analysis from ancient fields, as well as animal bone studies from settlement middens, provide concrete evidence for the remarkable adaptability and technological sophistication of Elamite farmers, revealing, for example, the use of drought-resistant crops, engineered irrigation channels, and complex food storage systems that enabled cities to flourish in challenging settings. Geophysical survey technologies, like ground-penetrating radar, magnetometry, and aerial LiDAR mapping, now allow researchers to unveil buried features and city layouts without destructive digging. These minimally invasive methods have uncovered previously unknown neighborhoods, palaces, and ceremonial structures beneath the earth, revolutionizing understanding of Elamite urbanism while safeguarding sites for future generations and techniques. Environmental archaeology, drawing on remains of seeds, bones, and soils, has generated detailed portraits of ancient diets, livestock management, and ecosystem manipulation. Analyses of water reservoirs and abandoned canals illustrate not only the engineering prowess of Elamite communities, but their ability to cope with long-term environmental change and manage risk in unpredictable climates, key lessons with relevance to studies of sustainability today. Digital preservation and virtual reconstruction have transformed both research and public engagement with Elamite history. Laser scanning and three-dimensional modeling now document buildings, objects, and inscriptions in granular detail, supporting global collaboration and ensuring the survival of irreplaceable information even in the face of armed conflict, erosion, or urban development. Accurate visualizations allow specialists and lay audiences alike to explore ancient Susa or Chugha Zanbil, bringing to life the vanished splendors of Elamite architecture and ceremonialism. The importance of Elam extends far beyond its ancient heartland. Its legacy is evident in the deep roots it provided for Iranian cultural identity, linguistic development, and the durable administrative systems later empires would inherit and adapt. The experience of ruling over multi-ethnic domains, through alliances, syncretic practices, and flexible bureaucratic structures, established templates for governance that later Achaemenid, Parthian, and Sasanian dynasties drew upon to build their own long-lasting states. As a cultural conduit between Mesopotamia and Iran, Elam facilitated the spread of artistic techniques, innovative technology, and legal principles that enriched both civilizations and contributed directly to the broader rise of ancient Near Eastern complexity. Elamite masons, craftspeople, scribes, and diplomats bridged cultures, translating, adapting, and synthesizing ideas from multiple sources into new and enduring traditions. Many of these traditions, be they architectural styles, irrigation methods, legal vocabularies, or mythic motifs, survived long after the fall of Elamite power, absorbed into the rich tapestry of Iranian and greater Middle Eastern civilization. Their persistence through successive conquests and dynastic changes underscores their fundamental practicality and deep social meanings. The rediscovery and scholarly study of Elam has challenged older Mesopotamia-centric models of civilization in the ancient Near East, revealing a web of mutual influence rather than a one-way street of innovation. Ongoing discoveries continue to revise previous assumptions about how ancient states managed cultural diversity, adapted to ecological changes, and maintained social order across centuries. As archaeological methods progress and interdisciplinary research flourishes, each year brings new insights that paint an ever more intricate portrait of Elamite society. The responsibility of preserving and interpreting Elamite heritage through careful excavation, conservation, and global collaboration becomes ever more pressing as modern threats loom. In doing so, contemporary scholars and the international community honor the legacy of a civilization that exemplified human ingenuity, adaptability, and creative synthesis. Understanding the achievements of Elamite civilization, its rise, resilience, and reinvention, offers vital lessons on the durable power of cultural flexibility and institutional wisdom. The memory of Elam, encoded in its art, law, language, and landscape, remains a legacy not just for Iran, but for humanity as a whole, a powerful testament to the capacity of early societies to find harmony amid diversity, survive environmental challenge, and inspire future generations with the cumulative achievements of human endeavor.